don't even know how I found it. It was like one of them YouTube recommends things. It just popped up, and I don't remember which one it was. It was something on ancient history,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, yeah, I started just under a year ago, but no one started watching until like March, and then I think you see me just after that point, and it's been a bit of a big, journey since then upwards, and but it's been very exciting and very happy to be here today. Very excited to be in Austin, and yeah, looking forward to talk about some ancient history.
So proud of him, by the way. Good for him, man. I gotta implement some of his strategies.
So did you start off on a traditional academic journey and then sort of get sidetracked into a YouTube career? Like, how did this work?
Dude, if you know Michael, that's like the most pointed question. Like, it's almost, I don't know if he knows that, or maybe he started with a softball on purpose. I'm seeing Joe's face. Joe's face right now looks like that's what he did. Who cares?
Basically, so I studied ancient history at university for 4 years, and I've always been interested in history. I've done history all the way through. Like, I was fascinated about history as a kid, and got to the stage in my life where it was, thinking about going to university. So I thought I'll do ancient history at university and study there for 4 years. Graduated, all of that kind of stuff. But there came a point during my degree where I was kind of, a little bit. I didn't quite agree with the kind of high level ideas regarding the timeline of history and what we're taught about our ancient past. And it wasn't that I disputed anything that I'd been taught, and I have like great respect for the people that I met at university and my professors, and I don't dispute anything that we were taught actually on the course, but it was more the kind of high level macro perspective of history that I found myself having more and more questions about. And yeah.
Like that's pretty vague, but I kind of know what he means. And I agree with him that they're from the macro perspective, like some of the narratives, when you know about the more minute details, they don't really show the conventional understanding of history being like maybe it's true, but there's so many different details they have, and I don't know why they would be right about all of it. So I don't know why we can't question it more. That's why I'm really glad that someone like Michael Button is getting heard more.
Yeah. So
What bothered you? Like, what were the questions?
it was kind of the big questions regarding the origins of civilization and how deep civilization goes and how complex human behavior, I thought went way
It's still
back
so
further
vague.
into history than what we were being taught. And
Which is fine.
I
I'm just
wasn't
nothing to say.
I just didn't buy this idea that nothing happened for like vast stretches of time, because it was during my course that they found that modern humans, they made this discovery in Morocco in 2017 or 2018, I think, and that was when I was at university.
Was that Denisovans?
No, Homo
Which one's
sapiens.
that?
So I can't remember this. It's called like the
It's the 300,000 about humans, like the date of modern humans got pushed back.
Jebel Irud site or something like that. But they were modern Homo sapien remains. They thought they were Neanderthal initially because they were so old.
How old were they?
They're 300.
I have to say, if you're ever around people in archaeology, you have to say Neanderthal or they will be incredibly pretentious to you. So just remember, it's Neanderthal, not Neanderthal, even though it's spelled Neanderthal.
15,000 years old. That's kind of like the estimate. It goes up to potentially 360,000 years old. So they're super old. And yeah, they thought they were initially Neanderthal because of this age, but then they discovered a few more and they classified them as Homo sapien. And when I saw that, I was like, how is this not kicking up more of a fuss? Because before them, the oldest Homo sapien remains we had were around 200,000 years old. And that had been the case for like a decade or something.
And how can such a huge, massive shift not change our perspective on the broader thing?
Before that, it was like 100,000 years old. So this discovery pushed back the age of our species by another third, like 100,000 years. So I saw that and I was thinking, like, how are we still basing our kind of idea of history around the fact that nothing happened for, 310,000 years, and then everything happened in like the last, 10,000 years since the Neolithic Revolution? I just thought that was odd because, we've been in this anatomically modern form for so long, and yet we were being taught that nothing had happened until, the last 10,000 years, and that just didn't make sense to me. So that's kind of where I started thinking about it. And then we did this module at university, I remember, called it was called something like Cataclysms or something, and it was all about how in recorded history natural disaster had a big impact on human societies and stuff like that, and how small, like tiny changes in climate could massively disrupt human civilization and bring them all crashing down. And the case study they used was something called the Late Bronze Age collapse. Have you ever heard the Late Bronze Age collapse? Yeah, it's when all these like powerful, influential civilizations at the kind of peak of human progress around 1000.
Yeah, the volume on the pod is very low. Okay, if I turn up the volume on the podcast, is that going to bother anybody? Let me know how the volume is. Like, as many people answer as possible, please, so that I can get a sense for it.
1000 BC
for how it is ultimately.
Simultaneously came crashing down, and no one was quite sure why it was, but the best theory we have is that it's like a kind of combination of climate factors, which led to trade disruption, which led to societal unrest, and then all these empires like the Hittite Empire, the Assyrian Empire, the palaces of Mycenaean Greece, the Egyptian New Kingdom, all within a 20 to 30, 40 year period, all came crashing down at the exact same time. And I remember being hooked by that. I was like, that's so crazy. Like, we don't even know why this happened, but it was like a half-degree change in climate. And so I remember starting to research how, bad climate had been during history and how bad it had been, like these big climatic episodes had been during prehistory. And I started thinking like, wow, if that had caused all these civilizations to collapse, just a tiny half-degree change in climate, which caused drought, which led to those civilizations collapsing, some of the stuff that had been happening during prehistory was so much worse than that. And that got me thinking, like, how do we know that sophisticated human culture hadn't flourished, 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, and collapsed due to climate change or a natural disaster, volcanoes, comet impacts, anything like that. And that's kind of what set me on the journey. That, along with the discovery of the remains in Morocco. And
if you watch me like nod in my head right now, I'm not tweaking out, as some people have accused me of, usually on appearances. I have Jesse Wells' Red stuck in my head so badly right now. I would just play it live to get it. It probably wouldn't work, but to get rid of it. But obviously I can't do that because of copyright. Okay.
That really got me thinking about the story we've told regarding our past and how I wasn't quite sure. And yeah, that's kind of...
Is the volume okay on the podcast?
What made me initially kind of break away from the traditional timeline that we were being taught.
The term prehistory is weird, isn't it? Because it's like, according to...
Yeah, the prehistory, maybe they go into it, but prehistory is basically before like written history. It's a really... It's kind of a holdover because we don't think about history like that anymore. Like, it's still history, even if it's not written down, but in the way that the field probably hundreds of years ago would have looked at it, the history is the stuff that's written down. This is like Herodotus type stuff. Okay, better now. Please let me know if the volume is good or not. So I'm going to leave it where it is. Let me know if there's issues so I can find where exactly it should be. Mario level 1 to 2, 1-2 underground music. I don't know what that means. Oh, is that da-na-na-na-na-na? Da-da-da-da-da-da? No, it's got to be later in it. Whatever. I'm so easily distracted.
What we find?
Yeah.
How do we know what historical... If there was a great cataclysm, like if the Younger Dryas impact theory is correct, how much history would be written down? What would be left? How would you find it? What would you know?
Yeah.
We're that's one of the things that disturbs me the most is the arrogance that some academics have to having a definitive understanding of
Wait, are they going to name drop Dibble here?
Exact timeline of agriculture, civilization, and then modern humans.
Yeah, it annoys me. I feel like academics, as opposed to the alternative historians, are kind of more saying, we don't know, but here's a potential hypothetical scenario that could be possible. Whereas
that's literally what Graham has said. And people ask me, like, why aren't you fact checking Graham the same way? It's like, dude, why? Number one, why can't I just make what I want to? There's no deeper meaning. But also, there's like 10 YouTube channels fact checking Graham. So why would I do that? And Graham has a right to say his stuff, and he's not the one saying that it's an actual fact. Whereas the other people are saying this is the actual fact. You can't dissent from this. Whereas Graham is just saying, I believe this is a possible way that things happened. And by looking into that idea, we can learn things. Even if it's not true, we can learn things. It's so close-minded. I hate the underlying beliefs of what would motivate people to just be married to have like an emotional attachment to how you view the past. It's just cool to learn about, and we don't know, and that's okay.
I feel like more mainstream, for want of a better word. I don't really like using that because I don't think there's such thing as a mainstream. It's not like there's a group of people that all collectively decide, but some particularly vocal mainstream kind of historians and
They're gonna do it.
scientists seem to claim to know absolute truth about the past, and that's just stupid. Like, how can anyone know about what happened 100,000 years
love
ago,
this guy,
200,000 years ago? And it kind of gets me a little bit riled up, because at the end of the day, none of us know what happened back then. So I think a lot more possibilities are, possible than.
Except for the archaeologists. They know exactly. They know 100%. They know exactly what Plato meant when he wrote about Atlantis. They know what he meant for a fact. Definitely. Don't believe anybody that sells you that crap.
Than what many people appreciate. And yeah.
Did you ever see, there was a video documentary back in the day, something about the mysteries of the Sphinx, and there was this
John Anthony
archaeologist
West
that was
right?
mocking Graham Hancock's ideas and Dr. Robert Schoch's ideas about the timeline, saying, talking about things that existed pre 10,000 years. And he was saying, he was like laughing. Like,
Yeah.
what evidence is there of any civilization from 10,000 years ago? This was literally, I think, around the same time that they discovered Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
Like this guy was mocking it. I think
Actually,
slightly there.
Hold up. I'm going to look it up in another tab, but I think that they had already discovered Göbekli Tepe, but it might not have been fully known.
After
It was like the 80s. I don't remember when the German guy first published on it, or when it was known that it was such a, like, it's going to be a gradual thing when people figure out how significant Göbekli Tepe is, but it's 80s into 90s, and I don't think until the 2000s it reaches like broader society.
Göbekli Tepe,
40s?
which threw everything into a tizzy, because now you've got something that was absolutely covered, they believe intentionally, somewhere in the neighborhood of 11,000 years ago.
Yeah, I think Göbekli Tepe is the biggest kind of smoking gun for at least for the idea that civilization is older and more complex than the traditional model suggests, because obviously, as you say, it's
1963, Klaus Schmidt, that's his name, recognizing its significance in initiating excavations. So in 1995, that was when Klaus Schmidt first recognized how significant it was. That's earlier than I thought. But again, no one would have really known. And excavations don't start until 1995. As long as we can trust AI, which on this, we'll say it's true. So his own book after 2008. So that gives a date of when it became important. So in the thing that Joe is referencing, it would have been before he could have reasonably known about Göbekli Tepe.
It's like 12,000 years old, and it's massive megalithic
I don't
pillars.
know.
I mean, you know about Göbekli Tepe. Probably most people listening to this will know about Göbekli Tepe, but it's such a clear sign that sophisticated human culture was present way earlier than the conventional timeline suggests. And I think that at least should throw a monkey wrench into a lot of these people's ideas regarding.
You see these trees right here? They're gone because of Jimmy Corsetti.
Regarding human civilization and when it began, because clearly the toolkit for civilization existed 12,000 years ago. So why couldn't it have existed a little bit earlier than that? And why, if it existed then, did it then take another 6,000 years for it to emerge in ancient Sumer, which is the kind of traditional thought to be the earliest civilization? So Göbekli Tepe is fascinating. I love it. It's a really interesting site. I think it will one day be classed as civilization. I'm almost certain that when enough time passes, we'll kind of look at that. And because it's a whole culture, the whole Tashtapela culture, there's like 14 sites at least, and they all have this kind of megalithic architecture. They all have shared symbolism. They all are clearly connected. Like, it's crazy how it's not defined as anything other than hunter-gatherers. And even if you think that hunter-gatherers built Göbekli Tepe, then you need to massively.
Where is our Turk? He's probably just waking up. Whenever Ermish gets in, Ermish, he'll be in the chat. I hope he wakes up and gets in the chat. He's been coming to the 5 till midnight streams every Monday at 8 p.m. It's a little bit funnier. I'm less serious. Thank you for the $1 donation, Rue. I appreciate that. The worst, cringe, dishonest words you will ever hear from an archaeo academic are "we know." 100%, dude. I fully agree.
Update the definition
I mean, you guys have heard it from me 1,000 times.
of what a hunter-gatherer is, because clearly they had surplus. They weren't just building these sites in their spare time. And yeah, it's a truly paradigm-shifting site. But I mean, everyone kind of knows.
In Squid, yes. When I found Jimmy back in 2018, I didn't think the weird guy expressing his opinions on shit like Atlantis and other things in history would be able to influence archaeology worldwide. Wild to see. This is, it's a bit of a sidetrack, but you guys have mostly been here long enough. But this is important. Like, the way that we exchange information, the technology of the internet allows us in the 21st century to have a voice. Whereas in the past, it's like, because of the functional technology that we have, someone creating an audience with YouTube or with a podcast like me, or to an even greater extent, Jimmy Corsetti, or even someone like Joe Rogan, it's much more difficult. And you used to have to go through, or you used to almost, it used to be almost impossible to do this without use of these social structures, like industries like the music industry or the television industry, that have limitations on what you can share. But while there are still limitations on what we can share, we're limited instead by YouTube's rules, or the much lighter restrictions that you'll find on podcasting sites. They still have some, but there are less restrictions from something like Spotify. And that changes the way that people interact with the world and the types of information that they're getting. And this has been allowed by our internet technology that allows us to communicate with each other. And that shouldn't be understated. It's huge. It changes the way that people interact with the world, what information they're getting. So it changes life entirely. It changes the types of information that people get, and it changes the way that people see the world, which is huge. It's like a revolution, essentially.
It's about Göbekli Tepe now.
But not everyone. But also, as spectacular as what they've discovered so far is, they have only unearthed 5% of it, which is even more bizarre.
Yeah.
Because you've got so much stuff that's underground, you have no idea what's on those pillars. There's speculation that one of the pillars from Göbekli Tepe that is unearthed is some sort of a calendar of events.
And of course, these things are arguable. So an archaeologist can just dismiss it if they want to. They can simply say, no, they're wrong. And they don't rely on like a hard science evidence to prove that they're correct. They rely on their expertise, but their expertise, they're turning interpretation into fact, and that's not how it works. Other people can have interpretations, and there are limits within the field of archaeology, or any field, with what they can reasonably understand. And the people who are within any academic field, or even within academics broadly, that's a subsection of the population that has certain traits. Like they're more likely to be to grow up more wealthy. They're more likely to have parents who are PhDs, and that affects the pool of people, as well as the limitations of the social structure within academia. That changes the ideas that are presented, because there are a certain type of person that's there, not just demographic traits like I was talking about, but also individuals that have, again, not just demographic specifics to them, to the set of people, but also any personal traits that they might have that are more common in people that look for PhDs, that become PhDs. And then the information that they're sharing is affected by that. Yeah. So you need to have different perspectives. They have theirs. That's great. I use them. You guys know I use them. But I also use other types of conveying information and other ways of thinking about things.
And they believe that it depicts some sort of a disaster, like that these, how they're making these images to be associated with either an impact or something, but there's a timeline that's inscribed in these pillars.
Yeah, there's like a study that was written, or a paper that was written, and they think it's pillar 43, I think it is kind of like a cosmic calendar, and it's like almost a prediction model of an impact that could happen or already has happened, and it's like a warning for the future. That is still disputed, but I mean, there's been good research that's done into that suggests.
Okay, but he's describing, I think, an actual peer-reviewed paper. So I guess there are limitations, obviously, but in this case, they are at least talking about this. There's also in archaeology a emerging subfield called archaeoastronomy. I've had one on the channel before, and I'll be speaking about his dissertation or his thesis once it's published, which should be later this year.
That's what it is, and it's certainly a site that has cosmic alignments and kind of has been built with the stars in mind, which is something that we can say about so many ancient sites around the world, which is another thing that isn't really considered by, quote unquote mainstream archaeology, perhaps as much as it should be. So yeah, it's a fascinating site, and I really think it displays a lot about how human ingenuity and civilization. People get a bit stuck with the word civilization because we have a very narrow definition of what civilization is, and it's basically based on the old model of Mesopotamia, which is ancient Sumer. And because that was the earliest known civilization for so long, we kind of constructed this whole idea about what a civilization is.
And we also have civilization. The way we understand civilization is through these more primitive, I've talked about using the word primitive before, but usually when I use primitive, I mean a social structure that is like a single social structure that is able to contain a non-arbitrarily different number, so a larger population. So for example, a social structure like the Roman Empire that's able to contain millions within a single structure is like non-arbitrarily more complex than something that could be called primitive. So I don't want to use it as just like a subjective idea that they're primitive because they're living in loincloths or whatever. But so that's kind of how I'm using it. That is to say that our civilization in the West, and when I say the West, I mean like Europe, right? But Europe's civilization comes out of the Middle East. So all of the civilizations of the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe, they come from this single-ish source of like the cradle of civilization. And of course, that's based on our current understanding. So how they adapted over, like, based on the specific traits that they had, with also influence and, if not direct diplomacy or direct cultural sharing with a civilization like those in China and India, they like, obviously the Indo-Aryans, the Indo-Europeans, so that does come from a common source, and probably China as well. But even for thousands of years, like the Chinese are talking to like Central Asian people who are then talking to Europe. And there is an exchange, a cultural diffusion, an exchange of information over that. And then you have the Americas, of course, which are separated by at least 10,000 years, likely like more, but there are multiple, multiple emigrations from Asia into the Americas. You see very different styles of civilization. So civilization could be many different things, but this was long-winded. I wish I had made it less. You could tell me to shut up in the comments, by the way. Just if you're tired of it, say shut up and get back to the video. But the point is that civilization does not have to look like our civilization. And based on the civilizations that we have in the historical record, we have a skewed perspective on what civilization means. It doesn't necessarily have to look like that. And the alternatives that I give is something like the potential Amazonian civilization that very likely existed in the Amazon River Basin, wrote about by not De Soto, not Da Gama, the conquistador who went down the Amazon River, and then no one went back for 100 years, right? Like they were in what European science for a long time would call a food desert. Like it's a green desert because you can't grow anything there. But they were based on those writings and based on recent, in the last 5 to 10 years, archaeological finds, they were supporting a large population. And their civilization probably looked very different from ours. And this is a common idea with Graham Hancock. And probably the thing that I find most interesting is the idea of a civilization that has a completely different root and value different things. Maybe there is the potential for a culture that is not so materialistic, that kept spirituality, that kept these animistic beliefs that we see so often in what we would call early peoples that our own culture developed from. Maybe there's a civilization that was non-arbitrarily more complex, less primitive in the sense that I developed earlier, in the way that I was just talking about 10 minutes ago, where they have one single civilization that contains within it one single social structure with millions of people, tens of millions of people, but they still have animism. So it's a social structure that contains millions or tens of millions, but they keep those earlier beliefs. And that would be great. It would be great to live in a less materialistic culture, which is also why I think sometimes we hope for that to be the case. And our ideas about what actually happened in the past can be affected as well. But going back in, yeah, like what we would call a new age civilization, right? Like, but that's a different thing, because even the new age culture, when I'm like, crystal type people, that new age culture, that does develop from our culture. That develops as a response to the materialism of our modern world. So something completely separate would just not be affected by all of these things that we have. This the idea of constructivism. All right, let's go back to it.
It's purely based on Mesopotamia, but I don't see why that has to be what civilization is, because that was just one civilization, and just because that was the earliest one we'd found for a long time and still is thought of as such, doesn't mean that that's the only way that humanity can flourish, because humans are so adaptable. We do so many different things, and we're clever in different ways, and we...
He's saying what I said. That's awesome. Better than me, actually.
Change to different environments. And I think that definition has really kept a lot of people kind of boxed in when thinking about how sophisticated human culture could flourish in different places, in different environments, and with different pressures. And I think that's kind of forced people to not consider what other possibilities are out there.
I think it's even more fascinating if you consider the fact that ancient Sumer and that part of the world from about 6,000 years ago is where they're sort of hanging their hat, saying that this is the birthplace of civilization. But if you do have this evidence of Göbekli Tepe, and then we are talking about some sort of an ancient...
And if you go gradually, when did civilization start? Like, there's not a specific moment. At a certain point, you have to argue about it. Although it might be kind of simple, because if Göbekli Tepe is the earliest civilizational site, the line from non-civilization to civilization is probably found somewhere within the construction of Göbekli Tepe over thousands of years.
And civilization that lived 12,000 years ago, like what happened? What happened? Like, what was the gap between that and then it took 6,000 years before they started civilization back up again? Sort of a reimagining of civilization, which makes you really, at least makes me really consider the possibility of a cataclysm, because if the people that survived, whatever they would be, they would probably...
It's honestly such a good argument. Maybe there are just more sites that fill between, like, the Bronze Age, 6,000-ish years ago, the start of the Bronze Age, and Göbekli Tepe. But it could have just been random. Some of these things, especially when you get into smaller amounts of people, some of them, like, it's just one guy or woman, one person, usually a man, but that we know of, at least in history, written history. So maybe I shouldn't say that, but one person can have a huge effect based on just their choices. It's less common when you have massive countries of tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people, but especially back then. Like, it could have just taken one leader who was like, no, we got to get rid of all this stuff. Usually influenced by some climactic changes or something, but it's possible that it's just totally random. They started to figure out civilization, and then it went away for whatever stupid individual reason. But it could also mean that this was the remnants of something that was there prior to these impacts that certain people believe, certain people don't, of the Younger Dryas. And then the traces of that exist for the next 6,000 years, trying to reemerge. And then eventually they get their teeth, and those ideas passed down are able to reemerge, however diluted they might have been once you get into the start of the Bronze Age. But there's so little substantive history back then from that time. I think the oldest, I'll look up the oldest, it's like a copper tablet of a guy complaining about the quality of copper he got.
We be living off the land. They'd probably be barely getting by and barbaric for a long, long time. And if it really took 6,000 years to kind of like settle down again, that is fascinating to me.
Yeah, and it all ties into this idea that we've had that agriculture leads to civilization, but there's that bizarre thing that, you know, agriculture appears in multiple
This one's not the oldest, but it is one of the oldest.
different places at pretty much the exact same time all over the world. And that's never made sense to me, because if agriculture was such a kind of vital invention for civilization to flourish, then why did no one invent it for, you know, 310,000 years?
Right.
And then in South America, in Mesopotamia, in ancient China, and you could argue there's
So Diego is from Mexico, around Mexico City, right? I hope it's okay I say that. But you live very close to a site that has been used long before the Olmecs. What site is that? And was taken over by them later, like Teotihuacan, which is obviously where the Aztecs were, but the Aztecs didn't build it. We don't know who built Teotihuacan, right?
other different places that, so say there's like South America and there's Central America. I mean, you could argue that's potentially connected, but a lot of people say it isn't. So how can agriculture, if it's such an incredible invention, be invented by multiple people at the same time, and then but no one else thought of it before? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense they wouldn't figure out seeds. Like how do you?
It doesn't make any sense they wouldn't figure out seeds. The science on what's the word? Like detransitioning from domestic to fertilization. The science on fertilization of plants is very scarce. There's really not a whole lot of, we do not understand it. But I have seen some papers about there being genetic markers, and it's very hard for me. I don't have the ability, the knowledge to actually evaluate this opinion in this paper like I do with some archaeological and anthropological ideas. But so I don't know how legitimate it is, but I have seen research that certain plants may have been domesticated multiple times based on a trait of seed shattering. But it's an argument, right? So who knows?
Not know eventually that these seeds are dropping, and then you see seedlings that are coming out of the ground. Just that seems pretty logical and an easy connection. And then you'd say, oh well, if we gather these seeds and go plant them over there, you know, maybe we can get some fruit trees over here.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, it worked.
Oh, that's just beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful. Looks like Mongolia or like New Zealand. I didn't know the Mexican mountains had terrain like this.
Worked. Like that seems like you'd figure that out in one lifetime.
I know it's odd, but I think the idea always has been that it's because of the climate, right? So because of the Holocene, which began around 12,000 years ago, as we came out of that and we had kind of stable climate conditions that we still live in today, that's what enabled the invention of agriculture, right? But then the question I always ask is, well, what about all the other warm periods that have come in the past?
And the Aztecs, by the way, we're having kind of a side conversation in the comments, which is okay, but the Aztecs are related Udo-Aztecan language family. Oh crap! It's either the Hopi or the Navajo, and I don't remember which. And those people are enemies, kind of. So, or at least historical enemies. It's one of them. They're related to southwestern Native Americans.
As the idea is that, stable climate led to agriculture, then why couldn't such a thing have happened?
Dude, that's the thing. Like, Flint Dibble is a food archaeologist. That's how he described himself. And I've seen his published work. That's what he writes about. I think it's the actual name is archaeobotanist. Maybe he's something different, but I knew an archaeobotanist. One of them was my advisor for my archaeology field school. I think he's an archaeobotanist. He might be something more broad, but his work has been on classical stuff. You would think that he would know, which makes me think that he did know and he was lying, at least on that particular one. I don't know, man. The guy just seems dishonest, but all of the things that, like, I don't have one thing where I'm like, you definitely lied. I have things that I'm 99% the dude lied on, but it's not 100, but honestly a 99%, regardless.
And in the Eemian period, 120,000 years ago, or there's been 4 distinct warm periods that have lasted for like over 10,000 years while modern humans have been around, at least. And obviously, these Morocco remains of Homo sapiens, it's unlikely they're the earliest Homo sapiens that ever lived. They're just the earliest we found. So we could be even older than that. So considering we've been through 4 distinct warm periods before the Holocene, and if the argument is that the Holocene was what led to the invention of agriculture due to the stable climate, then why?
Hey, like the video, please. Please like the video. Subscribe if you're not. I got other, not just the lives, but things that are more produced. The podcast should be every 2 weeks. Back to it.
Couldn't it have happened?
Like the video, please.
In the earlier warm periods. That's a question I've always asked myself and been fascinated by.
And the real problem is there would be very little evidence, if any.
Yeah, so this is the preservation problem, and this is something I talk about in my videos. So I kind of always ask the question, like, what if human culture had flourished in the Eemian, for example, which was from 130 to 115,000 years ago? What realistically would survive? Because it's such a vast length of time that it's really unlikely, at least as far as I can tell. And obviously, I'm not a scientist. I'm not like a materialist. I'm not any kind of. I'm just a guy. I'm not even a historian technically. But as
Me too, brother.
far as I can tell, it's extremely hard for any materials, but even our modern materials in our huge civilization that 8 billion people, industrial society, sending rockets to space, all the crazy stuff that we're doing. Even us, if we disappeared tomorrow, I think it would be extremely unlikely that pretty much anything would survive when you get up to these huge timescales.
Whoa, on the recent topic we were talking about, in the early 1800s, they planted hemp here in New South Wales, that's Australia, Hunter Valley. In the 1960s, it was found growing fertilized in the Hunter Valley. Thank you so much. That is very, very cool. Okay, I hit my goal. Thank you, the squid. I made a joke goal of $2, which I often do, that said, what did it say? I'll be happy, but I appreciate you just watching. So I guess I don't know. Thank you. Thank you very much for your donation. I appreciate it. But I also appreciate everyone just watching. Please like the video. I'm going to Google the cannabis.
Scales of like 100,000 years. And
welcome back, Sukanmi, another regular watcher.
So I've been doing quite a lot of, research.
You don't need a degree or even a diploma here at Illegitimate Scholar. That is the whole point. And some people try to use the name I chose to me as an insult, which is crazy.
Into this, because I obviously don't want to, get things wrong and put falsehoods out there and mislead people. Like, I don't want to look like a dickhead in front of like millions of people or whatever. So I've been trying to debunk myself or play devil's advocate to myself on this point, because that's the best way to make your argument airtight, and no one's really out there debunking me. I don't know if that's because I'm right or because no one knows me. Maybe that would change after a show like this, but I've been really looking into the kind of degradation of modern materials as much as I can, and trying to work out how much would survive from a civilization like ours if we disappeared tomorrow in 100,000 years' time. So if you
like someplace like London or Manhattan, what would be left in 100,000 years? Yeah,
of like an actual modern city. And the scary truth is, it's almost nothing. Like there are really, as far as I can tell, and obviously
cement buildings, they would just deteriorate.
They would go like concrete would crack and you'd get CO2 in there and freeze thaw weathering, and over these huge timescales of like 5,000 years, 10,000 years, it would just crumble down into dust and be absolutely imperceptible.
Just 10,000 years.
I think so. Obviously, I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I haven't got any notes in front of me or anything, but as far as I could tell from my research, it's going to be a few like 10,000 years, 20,000 years max. It's not going to get up to these timescales of 100,000 years.
So if you do add in, if you think about what Manhattan would look like in 100,000 years, it's almost nothing.
I would say it was nothing, to be honest.
Nothing. And it would just get
Wasn't there like a History Channel show about this that was pretty good, maybe 15 years ago? After Us, The World After Us or something?
overrun by trees again.
Yeah, because it's just such an incredible amount of time that all these materials that we build with are just going to corrode, and they're going to rust away. If they're metals, they're going to oxidize, they're going to flake until they're just tiny little fragments that just disperse in the sedimentary record, and they're just invisible to see. And same with concrete, same with even things like glass. I've heard a lot of people say that glass would potentially survive because glass is it's a very durable material, and glass would survive a long time. But glass in the form of a human-made recognizable artifact isn't going to survive in that form. It's going to get crushed. It's going to break away into tiny little nano fragments, into silica grains that are just invisible in the kind of archaeological record when you get up to these huge levels of time. And yeah, I mean, I would say almost nothing would survive that long. And again, with the caveat that I'm just some random dude who's investigated this on the internet and researched this myself, not a scientist. If anyone out there is a material scientist, I'd encourage them to reach out to me. But as far as I can tell, there are very few things that could possibly survive that long. I mean, we're pretty crazy fucking apes. Like, we do crazy shit. So things like
We are crazy apes. Crazy fucking apes. Hell yeah, brother.
nuclear weapons, like we test nuclear weapons in the atmosphere. You could argue if we knew when to look and what to look for, we could see traces of plutonium in the atmosphere from our nuclear weapons testing, or you could see our nuclear waste deposits. Or things like carved stone, because stone obviously survives a very long time. Human carved stone, you'd be able to find that. But we do find that. We find, stone tools. But just because ancient humans used stone tools doesn't mean they didn't use anything else. It's just stone is the most likely thing to survive. And the crazy thing is, like, Joe, do you know how many sites we have, Homo sapien sites from more than 100,000 years ago?
How many?
9. We have 9 sites, 9 glimpses, 9 snapshots into over 200,000 years of history, 9 moments in time. And we use that to extrapolate out what every single human was doing. For
9 globally.
9 globally, yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Whoop. You probably
join.whoop.com/JRE if you would like a Whoop fitness bracelet. I don't use that brand. But yeah, that's what he's going to say. So we're going to skip it.
And so what do they find? Like, what is the evidence?
It's usually caves, and it's usually just, remains of fire pits and
And if you'd like to actually care about your health and get on a monthly plan with a real American patriot, down below, join Axios Fitness Coaching. Join a community of like-minded men to reach your goal with them and get a workout plan that is tailored to your needs and goals. Like the video, please. Let's keep going.
stone tools. And that's kind of it. And so we see that and we think, okay, they just
In Life After Humans was the show.
lived in caves and used stone tools.
Right.
But it's 9 sites, 9 moments in time for 200,000 years.
Well, the problem is there's people that essentially live like that right now in some parts of the world, which is really weird, right? Because we always want to think about technology and advancement of civilization being sort of universal, but it's really not. There's people that are living a subsistence lifestyle right now. There's people that are uncontacted right now.
At the same time as Elon Musk sending
Yeah.
rockets to Mars and shit, yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the weirdest ones is when you see them get invaded in the Amazon, when you see them come.
Oh, the Whoop bracelet, by the way, just because, I'm reacting to his content, so I'm going to give his ads a thing, but they sound like a scam. But I think Whoop does give you some important information that most of you would probably not actually use. But if that is something that you're into, go ahead. I use a Garmin. I love my Garmin.
Contact these people and they're pointing bows and arrows at helicopters.
Yeah.
And, they're naked.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're so adaptable. Humans can do so many different things.
Yeah.
And as you say, right now we're sending rockets to space and people are living in very traditional ways of life. And that just because we find traditional ways of life in, I repeat, 9 sites to cover
Right.
200,000 years, in my view, that's just what we can see. That's just that kind of points to my point regarding what would possibly survive. Because
Right.
if you think of all the human lives, stories, cultures that have potentially existed for our whole species' existence, if we only have 9 little glimpses from, and to be fair, that 9 is, you could say it's up to 15 because some sites are debated, but either way, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of human, signs of human life. Just because in that fragment, in that snapshot, in that slither, all we see is some.
So on the screen, I'm sharing a Gemini, an AI answer, but for this, it's okay. Over what will be gone after 100, 1,000, and then 10,000 years. I'll put the prompt that I used into the chat so that you can read it on your own if you'd like.
Some humans with stone tools in caves. Doesn't mean that nothing else was happening. So
Well, a good piece of evidence to that would point in that direction is Egypt. Because Egypt, even if you accept the conventional timeline of Egypt, which is 2,500 BC for the Great Pyramid, go look at the rest of the world at 2,500 BC. You don't see anything like that. Nothing even close.
yeah, they were clearly, even if you kind of look at the conventional model of history, the ancient Egyptians were wildly ahead of everyone else.
Everyone.
It's just so weird. It's like,
So weird.
and that's if you, and the conventional model doesn't really give us any explanations of how they were doing what they were
And
doing.
they arrogantly dismiss any other explanations, which is
Yeah.
really weird.
Okay, maybe now they're going to name drop Dibble. Come on.
When you're talking about these immense structures that are baffling,
Yeah.
absolutely baffling to anybody who's being honest.
Yeah.
What is your take on these Italian researchers that are looking at the tomography and they're looking at these things that they believe are underneath the Great Pyramid and some other structures in Egypt?
Oh, yeah, I know what
Yeah,
he's
the
talking about.
kind the what's it called, like SARS Toppler. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm always a little bit suspicious when you make sensationalist claims with new technology, and that doesn't mean it's wrong. That just kind
Yeah,
of
you
gets
have
my,
to be suspicious because
yeah.
it's bonkers.
It's
I mean, if what
crazy.
they're saying is 2 kilometers deep underneath the Great Pyramid, there's
Yeah.
structures, and there's hundreds of meters of these pylons, these pillars that are in uniform positions with some sort of a coil wrapped around them. Like,
Yeah.
what is that? What is that real? And they reproduce it in multiple different scans, but I don't know what they're seeing. I don't understand the technology, understand where the errors could be, like what could possibly cause it to glitch like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would love it to be true, obviously, because
I would love it.
Can you imagine?
That's the problem. The problem is the same problem that I have with UFOs and everything else.
You
is
want it
that
to be true.
100%. So it really clouds my judgment. And then I have
God, I'm so similar, Joe. I said that exact same thing earlier. It's almost like we should hang out.
to get my, analytical mind to say, shut up.
Yeah.
Let's look at this honestly.
But I mean, I think, there's definitely something below the Giza Plateau. Like, that's always been written about in ancient sources, and
Yes.
these kind of scans, and then people you have stories of people going down into labyrinths that aren't, accepted by Egyptology, and there's definitely massive mysteries surrounding Giza and the construction of the pyramids and what could potentially be below
Did I change the volume of the podcast on your guys' end?
the pyramids. And this kind of new pyramid scan project has the potential, I think, to make big progress in understanding what is below Giza. But I don't know, until there's better data out there, I'm not gonna jump to any conclusions and declare that this is like evidence of a lost advanced technology civilization or anything.
No,
like
you
that.
can't. But I am so excited about just the possibility
me.
that they're right. Because if they are right, that's the greatest monkey wrench.
What's up, our Scottish friend? Everybody, so many of the regulars are coming right back, and I appreciate it. I'm sorry I was gone for so long, guys. But I should be regularly back now.
Into
Yeah.
history that's ever existed. Because explain away that
Yeah.
with ancient people with stone tools or copper. Like, explain that away.
They'd probably try, mate, because it already doesn't make sense. Their explanation for the construction of the pyramids being wooden sledges and stone chisels or whatever they say, it
I'll
already
post
doesn't
this
make
on
sense.
Twitter.
It's already so ridiculous that I wouldn't even be surprised if they tried to explain away these.
Well,
massive
it'll
columns, but-
discredit them. Because the problem is, if it does indicate that
They are already discrediting themselves publicly. Only able to do it because of our new technology, by the way. The internet, Twitter, ways that we interact with each other. No, we wouldn't know that these guys are douchebags without them making them asses of themselves all over the internet.
The pyramid is something other than a tomb. You know,
There's not. I don't even see any evidence that the Great Pyramid at Giza. I mean, what's the evidence that that was a tomb? I mean, did they?
I've sent some pictures of the remodeling on Twitter, Diego. I don't know if you're on Twitter or if you follow me. If you do, DM me so I can follow you back if I don't.
I don't think they've ever found a body in there.
No.
It's just a chamber
Yeah.
which they've called the King's Chamber.
right.
I mean, I'm not an expert in ancient Egypt by any respect, but it's always baffled me that they're so determined that the pyramids are tombs just because some later pyramids have had, mummies and pharaohs and sarcophagi found inside them. But
That doesn't mean anything. And that doesn't mean that they built it. That also could mean that the pharaoh decided that it was his and wanted to be buried inside of it. And it had existed for thousands of years before they ever even got there.
and you find bodies in buildings today, and that doesn't mean the purpose of that building was to be a tomb.
Right.
It's just someone's
Exactly.
Yes.
buried there, so someone
Like, in the future, archaeologists could find an American school and they'd be like, oh, there's like dead kids here. It was a funeral. Sorry. Being very European with my school shooting joke.
as you
It's
say,
a
thought it was-
weird assumption. It's a very weird assumption.
Can I make those jokes on YouTube? Whatever. Like the video, please.
And did you ever read any Christopher
Dunn. Yeah.
Christopher Dunn's work?
I know a bit. I haven't read his book, but I know a bit about it. And it's interesting. I mean, he's like a serious guy, isn't he? He's like
an engineer.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
he has quite serious theories that,
He thinks it's a power plant.
yeah, which would be crazy, wouldn't it?
Especially if you add into that the Graham Hancock's ideas and some of these other people's ideas that perhaps some of these structures are far older.
Well, the kind of Orion correlation and the
Yes.
Sphinx.
Also, the
weathering.
fact that the deeper you go into the sand, the more sophisticated the building techniques are.
Yeah.
That
It's
gets
the opposite of how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to lose it over time. That's like a dystopian novel.
weird. Like larger stones. Like, what happened?
The whole of ancient Egypt and the Sahara Desert in general just doesn't make sense
Don't worry, nothing to see here.
to me, because when you look at the Sahara Desert and the fact that it was green for 9,000 years, and then it stopped being green at precisely the time that we're told ancient Egypt emerged, well, that doesn't make sense. That defies how civilization works. Why would a civilization only emerge after the climate got worse?
Right.
That doesn't make sense at all.
And
Why have I thought about that before? The climate gets worse. When is he referring to?
so little research done in sub-Saharan Africa where they've actually gone into the ground and done like large scale research of these immense areas.
Nothing. The Sahara Desert is vast and obviously covered in sand and extremely hot, extremely difficult to
Good comment,
survey,
Electric.
politically unstable, and there's basically been no archaeological work done across the whole. And the Sahara Desert is massive. It's like the whole of North Africa, right down to.
Right.
I mean, it's massive, and
You could fit the United States in
you
there.
could fit anything in there, like a whole preceding civilization for 9,000 years leading up to ancient Egypt. It's the perfect place. It's right by Mesopotamia. It's right by Egypt. And yet we have this blank spot for the 9,000 years before the
This image on the screen is the 48 states, not even Alaska. The Sahara Desert is massive, and most of it has not, regardless of what Flint Dibble's dumbass will tell you, almost all of it has not been explored, and it's very hard to do so.
development of civilization, which is kind of also the gap between, I mean, it's a little bit less than this, but the gap between Göbekli Tepe and the birth of civilization. We have this huge area which would have been perfect for civilization, full of rivers, lakes, grasslands, perfect climate, and it's just missing.
Also, abundant resources where they could establish a stable civilization because they had so much food and they weren't being attacked, so they could kind of set up shop and figure some things out
Yeah.
over a long period of time.
Yeah. So my theory is that things were happening in the Sahara Desert when it was green, in the Green Sahara, for those 9,000 years. And then because it was really quick, that's what I don't think people realize, is that when the Sahara Desert turned from, green, lush paradise, whatever you want to call it, to a desert, it was like a few centuries. It's called rapid desertification, and it flipped, not overnight, obviously, but in a few centuries compared to 9,000 years is a rapid change. And for any kind of culture that was living there, you wouldn't have noticed it straight away. But in 50 years, you'd be like, fuck, it's getting a bit hot here. You know what I mean? Like, shit's going on. And then,
He's talking about
I think,
the green Sahara desertifying, right? Like the video, please.
maybe people migrated to the last stretch of green that was still available to them, which was the Nile River. And then the kind of survivors. Or
Yeah, this is the thing. The Central American jungle is full of cities. Like from the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, where the Mayans were, into also where the Mayans were, like Guatemala and Belize. There's just cities everywhere. They keep finding massive cities. They found one a few years ago. I've written about it on X. If you don't follow me on X, ill_scholar.
the migratory populations developed around the Nile River, and using the kind of experience and knowledge that they had from their lives and the kind of history of their cultures in the Green Sahara period, that is what led to ancient Egypt. I mean, that's just a
Well,
a
it's
theory,
also
but-
just an assumption that ancient Egypt didn't exist alongside that,
That's true, yeah.
or even previous to that, which is also possible. Especially
Absence
when you
of evidence is
consider
not the evidence
what
of absence.
Robert Schoch thinks about the erosion, the water erosion in the Temple of the Sphinx.
Yeah, the kind of explanation away of that also never made sense to me, that it's wind and sand, because when you see pictures of the Sphinx, even from when they kind of found it in Napoleonic times, it's buried in sand.
Right.
And there's records from the Egyptians themselves who, excavated it effectively because it was covered in sand. So if it quickly gets covered in sand, how could it be eroded by wind and sand if it doesn't take very long for it to, kind of get filled up with sand? Then how does wind and sand erosion even count? I've never seen anyone kind of explain that away.
Well, it's the walls that are the
I don't
most
understand what he's
fascinating
saying.
to me, because the deep fissures that clearly look like rainfall. It looks like something that water does over thousands of years.
Yeah.
And when you
There's those whales that were the Valley of the Whales. It's
Yeah.
just about, I don't know how many miles south, but it's south of Cairo.
that's bonkers too.
Yeah.
That's crazy. They find
Hundreds of
whales.
whales.
Hundreds of whales in the desert. That's so crazy. Look at that image. That's so nuts. That is so nuts.
I'm going to pull
Some of
them
them
up.
had teeth and toes.
So crazy. So crazy. And then it makes you wonder, like, how did those bones survive? Like, why are they there? Like, how quickly did they die? How quickly did they get covered up by sediment that they could find them all these years later? Because that's the weird thing about fossils and bones in general, is that most of them you're never going to find because they get eaten, they deteriorate, they're gone.
Beautiful.
Like, it's very difficult to make a fossil. When you
I really appreciate the photography
as they get
of
eaten,
this.
they-
Oh, oops.
you think about our quote unquote fossil record, it's really weird because it's hard to make a fossil. So we're dealing with a very small amount of beings that get turned into a fossil, and that is what we're using as our understanding of like life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird
It is weird. It is
because
weird.
it's so limited.
I'm not sure do you know when the Sahara was covered in water? I'm not even sure when that was. I mean, some people say that there's like a mass flood during the kind of Younger Dryas period, which I think is
I think they're talking about millions
Yeah,
of years ago for
exactly,
these
yeah.
bones.
Yeah.
How old are these whale bones supposed to be? But I think millions of years ago, it's assumed that
Yeah.
it was completely underwater, right? So are we talking like Pangea times? Like, what are we talking
I
about?
don't know. But even not too long ago, like, kind of 12,000 years ago, whatever, they had these massive river systems, like the Tamanrasset River system.
Here it is.
Oh.
40 million years old.
Yeah.
I pulled it up before Jamie. They said 40. AI answer gave me 50 to 100, but it's not like they're different.
40 million years old.
You love the burnt taste of Guinness. Yeah, it does kind of taste burnt. I don't know what that is, but I love it. I don't think it's thick. It's lower alcohol percentage than other beers. It's like 4.3 to like a regular 4.95%, at least American beers. Yeah, also Yingling, Narragansett, and a deep cut, if anyone knows, Utica Club is one of the best beers, but it's not widely distributed. I don't think you can find it outside of a portion of New York.
How about the whales?
Oh my God.
Primitive whales.
Primitive whales documenting, how do you say that word? Cetacean? How do you say that word? Cetacean transition? Is that how you say
I
it?
don't know.
Cetacean transition to marine
This
life.
is what they're looking at.
Sauridians and reptiles, as well as shark teeth, from the Genaham Formation 40 to 41 million years ago. The strata in, I don't say that either, Wad
Wadi
al-Hitan belongs to Middle Eocene epoch, and it contains extensive vertebrate fossils within a 200-kilometer area. Fossils are present in high numbers and often show excellent quality of preservation. The most conspicuous fossils are skeletons and bones of whales and sea cows.
What's a sea cow?
I don't know, man.
What's a manatee?
You ever see the precursor to whales, like where whales came from?
No, where did they come from?
It was an ancient animal that was like almost like a hooved wolf.
What sea animal?
No,
Oh, you mean
it was
they
a
were?
land animal. That's why they breathe air.
Oh, of course, they're mammals, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, apparently my son is in the comments. This is not real. I would love to have a kid. But bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks.
That's weird.
It's super weird. It's super weird. It was some animal that supposedly lived on land, and it was real freaky looking, almost kind of like dog-like.
Yeah.
And that thing eventually
Became a
said,
whale.
I just like swimming.
I'm gonna go back
And
into
then
the
one
sea.
day it said, I'm never going back to the land. It's filled with assholes. I'm just going to live out here in the ocean where all you have to contend with is
This
sharks.
article calls it the god of death whale.
Wow, that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like.
That's pretty terrifying.
But there's some images of it on land, some depictions. Yeah, that's what it looked like. That freaky
Ew.
thing was what whales came from. That thing walked around the ground and then eventually said,
If it's 40 million years ago, is that what those skeletons are then?
I don't want to
Maybe.
this.
interesting. Some of them maybe, right? Because they do know that thing. It was when whales walked in Egypt. Wow. I was watching, I don't remember whose podcast it was. I wish I could remember. But they were talking to some guy that found definitive evidence of dinosaurs in Egypt. So if you go back far enough, there were dinosaurs living in that part of the world as well. What's that one image you just saw right there with the mouth open? Yeah, that one. That's crazy looking. Prehistoric whale ancestor. Look at that thing. Whoa. That's crazy.
Here's the sea cows.
What?
This image says
Yo.
a prehistoric sea cow was killed by a prehistoric croc,
Wow.
then eaten by a tiger shark. But I don't know.
This is what they're
Boy.
looking at. Oh my
Life is
God.
hard where there's no doors. That's the problem
Bro.
with the ocean. There's no.
Look at those chunky boys. Oh my God, I want one. Can we get science on this? Why aren't we funding this? Oh my God, I love you. You got a little Inuit guys over here, or I guess vaguely Inuit. Or actually, that style of canoe, this is probably just artistic. I don't know why I'm reading into it, but that style of canoe is Aleutian Islander, looks to me, and that style of clothing.
No doors. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah, you
So
get
it's
fucked
just
up.
constant chaos. It is just constant things eating things in this 3D space where they can go up and down and side to side. And
That's just nature, isn't it, man?
It
Everyone's
is.
just killing everything else. And
yes. This episode is brought to you by Uber Eats.
Okay. Uber Eats, whatever. Don't buy Uber Eats. I mean, Joe Rogan, he's advertising it. Thank you, Joe Rogan, for allowing me to react. Although I can't watch the video. But yeah, Uber Eats. I don't recommend you buy Uber Eats. I recommend you get Axios fitness coaching, and join a community of men who are working on their health, because our natural lives do not take care of our physical needs anymore. It improves your life a lot. Rex, how you doing with that, by the way?
Got walls and doors, and that changed the game.
but when did we do that, Joe? That's the question.
That is the
Because
question.
a lot of people would claim to think, and the kind of consensus always is that we didn't do that until 12,000 years ago. We didn't settle down and form permanent communities until the Neolithic Revolution. And I think that's one of the major paradigms, if you like, that we have regarding our past that simply doesn't make sense in light of new evidence. And I just,
What is that evidence that they found of wood construction from far longer than they thought?
yeah, this is the Colombo structure. And this
Yes.
is something I talk about a lot in my videos because I think it's a crazy find and I don't understand why it's not kicking up more of a fuss. Like,
476,000
if I'm the guy that has to kick
old.
up the fuss about it, then I'll be that guy because basically
bookmark that.
the idea has always been that humans were nomadic
Where
hunter-gatherers
is
that
this?
moved with the seasons and lived in caves or just kind of walked around for all of our history until the Neolithic Revolution, the invention of agriculture 12,000 years ago. And no earlier than that did we ever settle down and live in permanent settlements. But the Colombo structure was something they found a few years ago in modern day Zambia. And what it is this these pieces of wood, and I'll get to the point about why this wood has survived in a minute, because obviously, wood surviving this long is crazy. But there you go. Yes, so the Colombo structure is these pieces of wood that have been joined together deliberately, cut in notches and connected together, tapered and secured at right angles. And they think it was either a kind of raised walkway, like a kind of raised platform, or a house, a dwelling, a hut, some kind of structure. And why this is so paradigm shifting is because not only does this kind of scream that humans potentially lived in permanent settlement. So, sorry, I haven't even said this. This is 476,000 years old. So this predates Homo sapiens.
Crazy.
So
I got to do a thread on this.
allegedly, as in, what do you mean allegedly? Oh,
Because we
exactly.
recently found out that they lived 300,000 years
I guess, it could have been us. But what they attribute it to is Homo heidelbergensis, who's our last common ancestor with Neanderthals. So they're kind of the human species that came before Homo sapiens. So I guess you're right. It could have been Homo sapiens, and we're just not sure how old we are. But it's
look at that.
it's kind of attributed to Homo heidelbergensis. And the only reason this structure survived at all is because pretty soon after its construction, it must have fallen into a bog. And then that bog kind of got solidified
bog
over
that
by the
lasted
sun.
for
And then
500,000
it
years.
was preserved in
Oh.
waterlogged sediment, which protected it from decay for almost 500,000 years until it was discovered by us recently. And
How recent?
I think about 5 years ago, maybe.
That's crazy.
Was it 2019 or something? I'm not 100% sure,
Wow.
but it's crazy. It's
So
lasted
another
so long.
monkey wrench.
Yeah, I would say it's a massive monkey wrench, because not only does it kind of really dispute this idea that we didn't settle down until 12,000 years ago with the Neolithic Revolution, because I mean it's a structure. I mean, and it's just because it's so unlikely, it's so unbelievable that this would have survived. But that kind of suggests that it's not the only one.
Right.
There could have been loads of these, like
Right.
structures everywhere. And
But as you said, Manhattan.
So what he described, by the way, I've talked about preservation in preservation of artifacts, mostly in the context of water, but this is more land-based a few times on the channel. But this is so ridiculously Goldilocks. Like, the environment is dynamic; it changes. The Black Sea is a perfect environment for underwater preservation of shipwrecks. However, the Black Sea is only a few thousand years old. Our environment is dynamic. It changes over time. And over not as long of time periods as you might think. As well, people who watch my channel might understand it better, but most people don't realize. So it is extraordinarily significant and extraordinarily unlikely for any location for 476,000 years to stay preserved. And the fact that we even have this, like, it's perfect. It was in a bog, which is one of the best places for preservation. And then around it dried out, but it was able to stay wet, which will preserve it until it's time to excavate. And then what a lot of people don't know, even probably people who watch this channel, is archaeology is generally destructive in the sense that as you learn about the site, you're also destroying the site in a lot of ways. It's like if you're excavating, you're digging out, the site is then destroyed. That's why that's why they take such detailed notes. I've talked about this before. 10 centimeters down, 1 by 1 meter squares is the standard, at least in North America, unless you're doing trenching or something. But this is the 10 centimeters down, 1 by 1 meter squares, recording, sketching what it looks like, writing where everything is found, what 10 centimeter section things were found in, so that they can really recreate the site in the notes. I don't get involved too much in that part. I only ever was doing the digging and a little bit of lab work. But regardless, let's keep going.
yeah,
Wouldn't exist in 100,000 years. So this is 476,000 years.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
And it's just wood, which is less durable
Yeah.
than all the other things that we were talking about.
Yeah, and obviously people may be saying, well, look, clearly things survive, but this is an extreme edge case scenario where it's like so unbelievably unlikely that this wooden structure would kind of sink into a bog, and then that bog be, solidified over, and then it would stay in that preserved. Like
then that they would find it.
and then they would find it, exactly, because what
You
are
have
the
to go
chances?
476,000 years into
Yeah.
the sediment.
Yeah, exactly, because we don't dig that far and look for anything sophisticated, because we think, nothing happened back then. And then
Right.
you find this, and it really suggests that humans were living in much more complex societies. And the fact that they had the cognitive capacity to plan structurally engineer, and build a structure.
So it's insane, 476,000 years ago. But also, talking about that 10 centimeters down, a lot of archaeology is very, very targeted. A lot of times, private archaeology, CRM, they'll be doing it if you have to put in a building, a foundation, or an infrastructure project. You have to do an archaeological survey of the area to make sure there's nothing that's going to be destroyed. But even then, they're not going to go lower in the ground is generally older. So over time, like whatever it is gets pushed down. If you're on land, like soil, dirt, sand, even if you're underwater, silt, sediment gets packed in over time, and you're very unlikely to go deeper than you have to. So anything that's older is going to be less likely to be found, because as soon as you start digging, you're going to find the newer stuff first. And if you're looking for a 2,000-year-old site, they're not really going to dig much below, if at all. You're supposed to, but it doesn't always happen. You're looking for a 2,000-year-old site, you dig down, you find everything younger than 2,000 years old, and you find the stuff that's 2,000 years old. And hopefully they keep digging down. They would say they dig down until they reach sterile soil in a lot of times. Like you dig down until there are a few layers of soil that does not have human artifacts in it. But what if that site was not occupied for 500 years? So the amount that they dig down, they don't find anything. That doesn't mean there's nothing below it. You would only find, if you just keep going, it's only if that site is continuously occupied. But yeah, regardless, it's very hard for us to find old things, whether they're preserved. They're very unlikely to be preserved, and then we're also very unlikely to even dig until bedrock. Yeah, I mean, in theory, digging until bedrock in archaeology is always great, but at the same time, it is extraordinarily labor-intensive work. It is meticulous. You're only going down 10 centimeters at a time, and it's just not practical. I mean, it makes sense. Like in a perfect world, we would, but we just can't. But people should understand that archaeologists can't keep digging all the time. They should understand that means that we won't always find older stuff. Like the video, please.
Completely flies in the face of what we've always thought about ancient humans, because we've always had this idea that there's been this very popular idea in kind of mainstream historical thought that humans only got smart around 50 to 60,000 years ago. And that's just Homo sapiens. We've always thought that other human species never got smart, never achieved what we call behavioral modernity. And this has always been the kind of idea that
modernity.
We went through this cognitive revolution around 50 to 60,000 years ago. And the most obvious proponent of how entrenched this is in kind of academic thought is, have you ever read the book Sapiens?
Yes.
Yeah, by Yuval Noah Harari. It's an extremely popular book. It sold something like 60 million copies worldwide. By far the most popular book about prehistory and, the story of Homo sapiens ever written. And Sapiens didn't kind of do anything new. It didn't, I think Harari himself would admit this. It kind of just collected the consensus of academia and presented it in a nice, digestible way to the kind of layman audience. But he took this idea that's always been present in academia regarding human intelligence, which is that while we've been around for quite a long time, we didn't achieve behavioral modernity until 50 to 60,000 years ago. And that's when we started apparently displaying complex cognitive traits like abstract thinking and planning and burying our dead and
Art,
yeah, exactly, and complex language and things like that. But this just completely flies in the face of that, because if we had the capability to plan, construct, and engineer a structure 476,000 years ago, that means mainstream anthropology was off by over 400,000 years regarding the advent of intelligence and the advent of permanent living. And that's quite the error. 400,000 years. Exactly. So that kind of suggests they could be off by similar margins about other developmental claims, because, I don't know, it's a big, big error.
Well, it's also, when you think about the history of the Earth, there are times that we know that there's great bottlenecks that occurred because of some sort of a massive natural catastrophe, like the Toba volcano.
Yeah.
Right, the Toba volcano, which was 70 70,000 years ago? Was that what it was?
Something like that, yeah.
Brought people down to a few thousand survivors
Yeah.
on Earth.
Yeah, and there's loads of these bottlenecks. And you
Yes.
look at our kind of genetic history, and I mean, does that suggest that something happened?
Right. Well, you're thinking about what evidence there is, and then you think about, there's no one left except a few thousand people 70,000 years ago. So it's possible that there's been this rise of some sort of a civilization and then massive catastrophe and a rebuilding. Just like if we're talking about the Younger Dryas, which is in this time period we're talking about, when you're dealing with 476,000 years ago, fairly recent, right?
Very recent.
Right.
Yeah.
And think about the 6,000 years it took for civilization to reemerge from that. Now you think of Toba, and you knock down the entire population of the planet to, what did they think it was? See if you can find out what the number was. I think it was very low. I think it was below 3,000 people on Earth.
Yeah.
On Earth.
Yeah, just from one natural
3,000
disaster.
people.
Yes, Jay Forte, a volcano in Iceland, the 6th century that dropped Earth's temperature. I'm gonna have to look that up. I know there was the Little Ice Age around like 1350. I don't remember what exactly caused that.
One massive super volcano, which is, by the way, just like Yellowstone.
Yeah. There's
that-
lots. It could all happen again.
That motherfucker is bubbling too. Here it is. Potentially, almost all of humanity, leaving around 3,000 to 10,000 humans left on the planet.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And supervolcano isn't the only thing. There's so many others. I
What
mean,
time period is this, Jamie? 74,000 years ago.
So that's quite recent
Yeah.
in terms of our story.
Well, in terms of your theory that I thought was one of the most interesting ones that you brought up, that in your videos, you were talking about how anatomical humans, just based on what we've
Anatomically
agreed
modern
to,
humans.
based on what we found 300,000 years, like what are the possibilities that there have been civilizations that emerged and were destroyed, and then there's no evidence of them?
Yeah, because I mean, aside from the preservation problem, which we kind of already talked about, when you get up to these massive timescales, very little's going to survive, especially when you think about what early humans were likely building with.
Yes.
Like, it's probably the things they could find in their environment, like
Right.
wood,
What's up, Vingo? Good to see you.
hide, plant remains.
You'd have
reed.
nothing left.
Nothing.
Just look at
you
what
just
we
say
know
weed?
about the Amazon now.
Yeah.
Because of LiDAR.
Like the video,
and
please.
because of, what is his name? Percy Fawcett.
Fawcett.
Because these people that made these journeys down there looking for these complex civilizations that at one point in time, now we know did exist there.
Yeah.
And just 100 years later, they called those people liars because they went back to the same place and there was nothing left.
Yeah. And so that's always been, thought of as myth or pseudoscience, that it's kind of the most popular idea of lost civilizations was civilizations of the Amazon, and it was always dismissed. But
Well, here's what's really crazy. Have you seen Detroit? Have you seen the evidence
Yeah.
of Detroit
Or-
where trees are going through houses?
and that's like 50 years less.
Yes,
Or if you look
less.
at Chernobyl, the kind of exclusion zone where no one lives, it's already like trees everywhere, and like nature is already taking root after less than half a century.
Yeah, bizarre.
And then 100,000 years. Like,
Right.
seriously, what's going to be left?
Very, very little. And then if you go 200,000 years, I mean, if anatomically modern humans, we've discovered them at 300,000 years, what if somebody digs one up that's 2 million years old? Then what do you do? then you got to go, oh boy. Oh boy.
Well,
and
this
then
co-
there's also this thought that Neanderthals were stupid. They're kind of abandoning that
pronounced it
now
right.
too. They're thinking they had language, they
Very
had tools,
fancy.
they had society.
They definitely did. There's so much evidence, and this kind of puts into the cognitive revolution argument, which is, that we were the only smart species. Like, our name that we gave ourselves, Homo sapiens, literally means smart man. It's always been the idea that we're the smartest humans, and that's why
We are
won.
better
And
than the others.
To be fair, we did win. or
We did win.
win, whatever you want
But
to
we
call
might
it.
just be the most evil.
Yeah, we might be the most evil, or we just might be the luckiest ones,
Well, we're the weakest, so we probably had to be evil.
It's true.
We had to figure out weapons that would be able to defeat the Neanderthals, who had, by the way, larger brain capacities.
I think
Neanderthals, I think the reason that they mostly lost out to Homo sapiens is because of Homo sapiens living in larger family groups. I got to do some stuff on that.
we're
Homo
just as
sapiens.
intelligent as us, to be honest.
That's nuts.
Well, I mean, that's a claim that probably some people would dispute, but I think there's lots of evidence that they were very smart. And
Well, necessity is the
100%
mother of
I'm a
invention,
speciesist.
right? And if you're
Homo sapiens
physically
supremacy.
weaker, than these other things that are as intelligent as you and far stronger.
Yeah.
Like you gotta get devious. You gotta figure some stuff out.
But like, did we even? I mean, maybe they got wiped out by something like disease, or did they even get wiped out? Because if you even look at the DNA of non-African humans, it's something like 20% in some populations is Neanderthal. So
Yes.
they're kind of still here.
Well, they just sort of interbred.
Yeah.
Which is also weird because most species can't breed with other species.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
But we're very.
You
I
can't
mean,
apply regular
very
species
closely
science to
related
humans.
Neanderthals.
Yeah.
Gets
It's
very
weird.
hairy.
The whole history of humans is weird. And for academics to deny this
Post-World War II
possibility, to me
consensus.
seems so short-sighted
I know. It
and
will change.
silly.
I think
Name
we're on
drop
the brink
Dibble.
of quite a massive shift in our perspective regarding
I
prehistory.
think so too, and I think it has to happen where I don't mean to say this to be cruel, but the old people have to die.
There's that quote, isn't it? Science advances one funeral.
One
at a time.
funeral at a
Yeah.
time.
I hope it
good-
doesn't take that long, though. To be honest, Joe, I hope it's just in the next few
Well,
years.
the good thing is a lot of scientists don't take care of themselves, so. Which is also weird when you see super intelligent people that are obese.
Who could he be talking about right now? A lot of scientists don't take care of themselves and look like slobs in oversized suits. Who could he be talking about? You're a bitch, Dibble.
And eat terrible food.
or
But
health experts that are such.
yes, air quote health experts, not real ones. But it is, to me, a great disservice. And one of the things that I find very promising is that a lot of young academics are embracing a lot of alternative ideas.
Yes, Lance, more social, more collaboration, larger groups of humans. So Neanderthals as an individual might be stronger than a Homo sapien, but if Neanderthals are living in groups of a few people, whereas Homo sapiens are walking around in bands of extended family groups, okay, the Neanderthal has a more robust skeleton, is stronger than a Homo sapien, but 4 Neanderthals are not going to beat 15 Homo sapiens, right? Adults, I mean.
Yes, whether quietly or whether they're doing it publicly.
Yeah, well, I think the advent of the internet and shows like this or the medium of podcasts.
So Homo floresiensis is just it's kind of, I think in recent years, it's kind of just a type. It's really just Homo erectus. It's an earlier human. But there is some evidence that they were seafaring 800,000 years ago, but it's just one site. They are cool.
Thing has really kind of democratized the access to information and allowed people with theories that potentially wouldn't have been able to get out there in the
Just we were talking about technology, how technology changes how we interact with the world and how we think.
pre-internet age, where they were kind of, you had to go through a kind of academic institution to get a theory heard or debated. Now anyone can say anything, for better or worse, and that can reach millions of people. And then if it's an idea that's popular, then it can kind of be in the public eye, and then it can be debated properly. And I think that's only a good thing. Obviously there are negative aspects to that, but I think that will increase ideas regarding prehistory, for example. I think it will increase the rate in which these things will get accepted, because once the evidence is out there, and once you start, talking about the Colombo structure, for example, and how it completely flies in the face of both these paradigms regarding permanent living and human intelligence, it's out there now. People can look it up and people can see that this is completely kind of opposed to what we've always been taught regarding prehistory.
And isn't it kind of arrogant to assume that they know who built it too? That's weird too, because they're basing it on this assumption that human beings didn't exist back then. At least Homo sapiens didn't exist back then, which is also being challenged
That's true.
over and over and over again.
Yeah, the fact they base it on Heidelbergensis is literally
Why would we have the earliest example of something existing in the archaeological record, especially the further back you go? Because the stuff disappears. It doesn't preserve. The environment changes. It gets destroyed. It's normal.
just because we found some Heidelbergensis remains like 200 kilometers away. And they're like, oh, okay, well, it's Heidelbergensis. I mean, it could have been, to be fair, but
It could have been, but I mean, right now there's people that are living in Africa, and 200 kilometers away from them are apes.
yeah.
So if one day they found structures, in the future, said, "Oh, these are made by chimpanzees,"
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of great. I mean, that's the thing about history, is it's all based on massive assumptions. It's not like a hard science. It's interpreting evidence, and that's fine. Like, that's
Yes.
how we do it.
Thank
but
you,
Sure.
Michael.
That's
I love
why I
this
don't
guy.
Well, it's
get
the only way to do it right
exactly.
now.
It's the only way to do it. So that's why I
yeah.
don't get why people make these definitive conclusions and then don't allow anybody to kind of speculate or hypothesize about anything else.
It's gatekeeping.
Yeah.
It's gatekeeping. It's academic gatekeeping. It's also these
Name drop
people
Dibble.
that have been teaching this one thing forever, being threatened by the fact they were wrong. The last thing an academic wants
Thank
to
you,
hear is like,
Diego.
"You wrote this book, this stupid book. This book misled people for decades. You were so wrong." Like they will fight it with every ounce of their being because it's essentially their identity. Their identity is being the gatekeeper of their understanding of human history.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
they've built a whole career around it, and they've, as you say, it's their identity. They've been the keeper of knowledge on a particular subject, and then
But it's gross because it's ours. It's the whole.
It's everyone.
Yes, Joe. The archaeologists in no other field has a monopoly on understanding our human past. It belongs to all of us.
planet. It's all the human beings. It's like, do you have a few nerds who you wouldn't want to hang out with in real life? And these are the guys that are telling us we can't explore these things. And those are the people that are attacking Graham Hancock with every possible insult.
Name drop him.
Calling it the most dangerous show on television. But it's also
Do it. Name
it's,
drop him.
it's so revealing because it's so obvious that if you watch the show, you're like, wait, this is the most dangerous show on TV?
Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah, like
It's ridiculous.
how is that dangerous? He's like just talking about these bizarre structures that exist that seem to defy our modern understanding of how things are built.
Yeah, and when I don't agree with absolutely everything Graham Hancock says, but when I look at
It's okay. You, don't
these
have to. Neither
ideas
do I.
of,
But it's okay.
you
It's
know,
all okay.
Human intelligence potentially stretching
Fuck
back
Dibble.
500,000 years, as displayed by the Colombo structure, or permanent living, and I would argue that it could go back a lot further than that. So when you kind of take into account that these abilities could have stretched back 500,000 years, when I then look at someone like Graham's work, it seems
Graham.
so plausible. I don't see why it's seen as so outrageous that, because 12,000 years ago, which is kind of when he proposes there could have been a sophisticated civilization that was potentially wiped out by a cataclysm. When you look at that from the perspective of, oh yeah, we've been intelligent for 500,000 years, it seems very plausible to me.
Not only that, it's 450,000 years after the first structure now.
Yeah. But no one's talking about this.
That's what's weird, is that no one's talking about that.
It's just me.
As
far as I can tell.
It's like those academics as well that found it.
To be fair, the guy that found it, the archaeologist that found it, said that he never could have imagined that pre-Homo sapien, and again, it may not be pre-Homo sapien, it could be Homo sapien, but he said it's completely paradigm shifting that they had the capacity to plan and build something like this.
Remember, this is
But
not
again,
anatomically modern humans making the
there's no fuss
structure
about it. It's just
476,000
a paper was
years
written
ago.
and it was put out there, and then that's it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to pause for a second. I have never said this out loud or typed it, I think. But yes, Flint Dibble absolutely reminds me of Peter Pettigrew. And he's a little bitch like him too. And also Flint Dibble is scared to defend his ideas, but he talks shit about me on other podcasts and publicly complains about me on his Twitter. But he will not talk to me about the actual information because he knows he's wrong and he's a little bitch and his clothes don't fit. Flint Dibble's a bitch. Talk to me. You bitch. Flint Dibble. Okay.
Well, these things take time.
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, more of these conversations and more people have to understand that these things are being discovered and that we are kind of confused about so many things about human history. And we're being told that, no, there's people at the universities that have all the answers and that it's literally not possible that they're telling the truth. It's not possible. And that's why I get so excited about the structures under the pyramid, because it's a gigantic fuck you
Yeah,
to all
it
those
would be.
people.
Also like the video.
It would be, yeah.
It would be the most gigantic fuck you of all time if they found out that those scans are accurate and there's these pillars that are wrapped in coils that go down like hundreds of meters, and then below them there's additional structures and the whole.
And I think it's all connected as well.
Yes. Which is like, if Christopher Dunn is correct about it being some sort of a power plant and that reveals like how the thing worked and functioned,
Yeah.
that's way more advanced than us. Like, what is that?
In some ways, they already are. I mean, we can't explain how they did it, even based on
Right.
the kind of conventional model of history.
I know, and we lie.
Yeah.
I've talked to so many people. Like when I had Zawi Hawass here and he was explaining to me.
He's
like,
laughing.
It was the national project.
Name
Like,
drop Flint.
Oh, that'll fix it. We should make our national project to breathe underwater and fly through the air. Like we should make that our national project to go to go to other planets and live there in case Earth gets blown up. What are you talking about, man? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, they just don't want it, and it does kind of make me worry. Like, I don't really delve into the kind of conspiracy side of things because, I mean, I try to stay kind of based in.
Not me. I go right in.
I mean, I
face
do.
first.
I do in my own time and stuff. I mean, in my
Give me-
head and stuff.
give
but
me
in
double
terms
name
of,
drop.
my
What
videos,
one do you dive into in your own head the most?
I sometimes combine the UFO one with the ancient civilization one.
I do too.
And I think what happens if, a civilization from a million years ago got so advanced that we can't see them, and then that's what the UFO thing is. It's just someone from this Earth that doesn't really need the space anymore, and they're just watching us.
Yeah.
Sometimes think about that. But obviously I don't talk about that in my videos because I don't need to give anyone any more ammunition to.
Oh, they're
going to
bring that
Well,
up.
there's also the genetic engineering one.
Oh, you mean like the...
Yeah, like why humans are so different than everything else in the first place. Like, that's weird. The doubling of the human brain size over a period of 2 million years is really weird.
What does that refer to? Is that from habilis to erectus? What is that? Is that?
I don't know. Let's Google it.
Because I've heard people say that, and I've always thought, I guess that must be from Homo habilis to Homo erectus from just over a million years ago.
An immense leap that is, like Terence McKenna used to say, it would be bizarre if it was a liver of an otter that doubled over a period of that amount of time. But the fact that it's the very organ that allows us to contemplate and to understand human existence in the first place, and that organ doubled over a period of 2 million years, like, what happened?
Yeah, and yeah.
He's got the wackiest theory because he thinks it's psilocybin mushrooms.
I think there could be something to that.
There's
I
a lot of theories.
because
There's a lot of theories about the brain size of humans. Some of them have to do with like fatty acids in fish populations, psilocybin. There's like half a dozen others.
ancient cultures have always used psychedelic substances, and basically all the way
Yes.
up until Western civil society kind of took hold. It's always
Yes.
been an integral part of
And it still is
human
for a lot of
culture and
indigenous
human
cultures.
society. And then us in our modern world have decided to outlaw that, and I think that's a tragic mistake, to be honest with you.
It is. And I think history will reveal that
Yeah.
one day. And I think that is one of the also one of the good things about discussions that are happening on the internet that are kind of unchecked and untethered by academia, so you can talk about these things. Bigger brains.
Smithsonian website says it's actually tripled over the time we've tracked it. Slow increase from 6 to 2 million, but a larger increase 800 to 200,000 years ago.
Wow.
And then the article goes.
That's what
All the white people in the comments thank you, Coob, for giving us life, the evil black scientist.
when the aliens landed.
Yeah. So I didn't even buy that though, because Heidelbergensis have the same cranial capacity as us, and they go back 900,000 years. So,
the other thing I saw before.
but maybe that's erectus they're talking about.
Brains don't fossilize; they deteriorate, leaving a cavity.
Inside the brain
That's
case.
part of how they know some of this info.
Sometimes sediments fill the cavity hard, meaning a natural endocast. Scientists also make artificial endocasts to study like the ones above. Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah, we're a weird creature.
Well,
Yeah, we
did
are.
you say it's
Especially
2017
me.
that they discovered modern humans 300,000 years ago?
I think so, yeah.
And where was that?
It's in Morocco.
And so that's Morocco, right? You said that. So imagine if they found something similar in China.
Well, that would fuck everything up because the out of
Yeah.
Africa thing, and that would really,
Neil deGrasse Tyson is a huge man who wrestled in high school and maybe college, or played football. One of the two, maybe both.
really fuck everything up. But I mean, it could happen.
Well, it wouldn't really even fuck it up. It would just push it back.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not even supposed to have left Africa until this time of the cognitive revolution, and that's always been one of the points. Like, oh look, we got smart, we left Africa 60,000 years ago. But that's never made sense to me either, because Homo erectus managed to migrate out of Africa and colonize loads of Asia and parts of Europe over 1 million years ago. And if they're supposedly, inferior to us, then how can they make this massive leap? And Heidelbergensis did it 600,000 years ago. And if they're supposedly inferior to us, how come they did this? And so, I mean, I don't know. I try
don't
not
think
to
they
delve into
really-
the out of Africa thing because it's, I don't know, it gets a little bit controversial sometimes.
I don't think they use the words inferior a lot, but it's kind of implied when you're talking about intelligence and ability to create things in civilization.
It does. Well, it gets controversial.
Dude, I would pay so much money to watch Sam Hyde fight Flynn Dibble. I would rather Sam Hyde do it than me. I would challenge. If I say on this live that I want to challenge Flint Dibble to a boxing match, he will post some clipped out of context thing and claim that I'm threatening to assault him and try to report me to the cyber police or something, because Flint Dibble's a bitch.
Version when you bring in aliens too, because aliens become racist.
Yeah.
It becomes racist because now you're not accrediting the Africans to building the pyramids.
I know that Joe Rogan is about to bring up the racist machine elves from. I think he will. We'll see.
You know, it's just really
That's never made
fascinating.
sense to me, that, because it clearly wasn't white people that built the pyramids.
Well, I watched this very bizarre discussion between some guy that was trying to claim that it wasn't Africans that built the pyramid, that it was white people that built the pyramids. So there are people that have this sort
The Egyptian dynasties were very multicultural. So some of them are like more similar to Egyptians today. Some of them have my phenotype, or not my phenotype, rather. Well, we wouldn't know, but my haplogroup, R1b, which is 80% of people in Ireland and Scotland and Wales, and then like 65% or so in England. It's the majority of people have the R1b haplogroup in Northwestern Europe. And that is the haplogroup of some pharaohs, as well as Nubians, like straight up Sudanese Africans as well. They're both true. It's like that. There's a meme of like what the pharaohs look. I'll pull it up.
of racist idea of the construction of the pyramids, but you can't attach that to everyone who's speculating about the construction because it's the things are too weird. It's too weird.
This
And
meme
let's
is true.
assume that it was Africans that built the pyramids. But if we are assuming
Sorry,
that, like,
Pagan.
how were they so much smarter than everyone alive today? How were they so much smarter? Let's say it's 4,500 years ago. How were they so much smarter? What was going on? Like, what happened? Did they get visited by aliens? Did they discover something that allowed their understanding of physics to be just so much greater than everybody else who's ever lived? Like, what did they discover? Like, what were they encountering? What were they consuming? What were they doing? What were they teaching each other? Where, you know, we lost so much in the burning of the Library of Alexandria, right?
Yeah, that's it's quite sad, really, isn't it? To be honest, like there would have been a lot in. I'm not sure 100% what happened with that. I'm not sure if it was one burning or
There's several burnings.
yeah, but clearly a lot was lost.
But then the question is, like, what did they even know? Like, what if it's older than that? Like, what if all that stuff? What if, you know, this is one of the things that Zawi Hawass was very reluctant to. He's like, what is this? Like, I was talking about the King's List that
Yeah.
goes back 30,000 years.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what if that's accurate?
yeah. It's the Sumerian wonders too.
Yeah. It gets real squirrely when you only want to accept some parts of history.
And that ties into the Green Sahara thing that I was talking about. Like, I mean, they have king lists that go back this far, and yeah, we say that some of them are myth. And to be fair, they have kings that reign for like 1,000 years, which is a bit weird. That's
It's a bit weird.
probably not. I mean, unless you're talking some kind of alien thing, then that probably wasn't human. But that might just be because it would have been a long time ago for them too when they were writing these king lists.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean that their civilization only started with the first dynasty. What we've decided is the line between myth and fact, because that's a modern interpretation after the fact. They never made such distinction.
Yeah, and this idea that they lived 1,000 years. Well, have you ever read the North Korea depictions of Kim Jong Un's first day playing golf?
Yeah, it's propaganda, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, he made like 9 holes in one. He was the greatest golfer of all
Kim
time.
Jong Un's
You
just
know what I'm saying?
really,
So it's
or
like
Kim Jong
you're
Il is
writing
just
about
really good at
kings.
golf.
He lived 1,000 years. Fire came
Yeah.
from his dick. You know, like what are we talking about? We don't know. We don't know what they were writing. We don't know who wrote it. We don't know how fantastical it was, how much hyperbole was involved. But we do know that we accept the King's List when it gets to around 2,500 BC. We start accepting it.
Yeah.
But you don't accept this possibility that it might actually go far, far, far earlier than that.
And the pyramids thing kind of plays into the fact that stone is one of the only thing that survives. And pyramids are these massive stone constructions. Like, ironically, they would be one of the only things from not that they really count as our civilization, but from the modern world, the pyramids would be one of the only things that could survive in 100,000 years. So it makes you think, like, how long have they been there? And I think the Egyptians definitely undertook some kind of construction project around the time of 2,500 BC.
Oh, for sure.
Because there's records of them saying they
That's
did
when the
stuff, but
pyramids
that
are
doesn't mean because
conventionally supposed to be
they
built.
have all these records, but there's no records of how they built
What
it.
is up, Suru? Seriously, all of the regulars are just immediately back, and I haven't streamed or put anything out for months. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for being here. Please like the video.
Well, they also the buildings that they made that were after 2500 BC are dog shit.
So much worse.
They're
They
terrible.
just immediately forgot how to do it again straight away.
They were trying to copy and they just couldn't do it. They didn't have the math. They didn't have the engineering. The stones are smaller. It's
And no one's claimed they don't claim credit for the pyramids, which is weird.
yeah.
Why
it's-
would you not claim it?
Yeah, it's all weird. It's all weird. It's the weirdest, right? So it's the one thing that if you're a logical person and you think you know the timeline of history, you think you understand human civilization, you think you understand like how intelligence evolved and how technology and innovation evolved, and you see that, you're like, oh, I don't know shit. I don't know shit. Like, how's that statue so big and perfectly symmetrical?
They're crazy.
How are these just these vases that they don't understand?
Oh, is that a replica
This is
of-
a 3D,
see that.
and this is a 3D model of an actual vase from Egypt.
Yeah. They're doing some good work on this, aren't they? People like
Who gave
Uncharted
this
X.
to us? Did
and-
Christopher Dunn give this to us?
Shout out Matt Beal. He doesn't know about Matt Beal. I have one like that. It's in a box right now. God damn it! I don't
But
have my
you know,
stuff
Ben
out.
from Uncharted X, you know,
Yeah.
he's done a lot of work on these things. Like those vases are very bizarre, very bizarre.
And
The
they appear right at the
precision-
start of the
Yes.
Egyptian dynasties.
Yeah,
Then they forget how to do that as well.
we have no idea how they made them. We don't know what tools they used. Anybody that says that they do, you're lying. You really don't know. You can't know. These things are perfectly symmetrical. They weren't turned on a lathe because they have handles. The
They're
way
incredible.
they measure them.
I mean, I've felt some of these things in real life. I've held them, and I have a 3D printed reconstruction, just like Joe has, that I would be sharing with you if my computer didn't just lag and I lost. Here it is. Where'd it go? The window just disappeared. Oh my God. What is happening? I am so bad at this, guys. I'm sorry. Like the video, please. The window just, it went all the way down to the bottom right of my third monitor. Here we go. Yeah, I have one just like this. I wish I had it with me. I could show it, but
when you look at like the deviation from round and like how it's like a thousandth of a human hair.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's made
insane.
from incredibly hard.
the 3D printing is not as precise as the actual vases. Like they're smooth. Some of them are like down to a perfect point where you have it on the table and you can move it with one finger and it like rocks back and forth, then back into place. It has these like
Granite,
Yeah,
right?
so
on the sides, like these very, very precise
hardest stone to
right there, like these very precisely drilled, I would say, what was maybe used to hold string or something.
to do that with.
So what are we talking about?
Ridiculous.
Like who are these people?
Yeah.
This is kind of crazy
And then you have the statues that are perfectly symmetrical.
Perfectly
Like, the faces
symmetrical.
are just incredible.
and
like,
massive.
yeah,
Yeah.
huge,
Right.
unbelievably huge.
So they moved them there, and then they carved them perfectly symmetrically. It looks like they're 3D printed.
Yeah.
It's so strange. It just screams at a lost technology.
least,
It
yeah.
screams at these.
And mainstream archaeologists are saying that these things, these incredibly precise, what do you call them? Vases, I guess, whatever you want to call them, stoneware, they were created with hand tools, and it just is ridiculous.
People had some sort of information and some sort of education that is like on a different path of we went the way of the internal combustion engine and transistors and electronics, and it seems like they went a totally different way, but maybe even further.
Yeah.
But we're
Right.
scrambling.
So we're really advanced in our modern society, right? But you can break society down into as many aspects as you want. You can break it down into economics, society, the political institutions, and you can keep breaking it down to the point of like our knowledge of spirituality, which you can define in any sort of different ways. Our knowledge of plant domestication, like there are plenty of things that other societies, even in the long forgotten past, would have been better at. Like, obviously, hunter gatherers are going to be better at tracking animals. They're going to be better at the things that they do more. That maybe there are some people in our society who specialize in that, but the hunter gatherers are even better than those people because they have built up a knowledge over time and passed down this culture, this learned way that humans interact and thrive in their environments, and they develop that skill and that knowledge, and we don't have that in the modern world. It's just because you're more advanced in general doesn't mean you're more advanced in everything. They understood things that we don't.
Like, our pathway to advancement is the only one that the human mind and all its infinite creativity can conceive of.
A society based in
another point
shamanism.
regarding, like, you know, culture that could have flourished back in 100,000 years ago or whatever. We're always looking for ourselves in the past.
Yes.
But there's so many different ways that we could have gone, because why did it have to be mass farming, mass population growth, and then, as you say, kind of industrial progress? It could have been so many different forms of human development and human lives. And
Well, it could have been, if they had enough animals, they mostly ate animals.
yeah, or fish or something.
Yeah, mostly ate animals and fish, which is probably healthier for you anyway. You know, really what grain is survival
Thank you, Lance.
food.
Yeah, and we all got like shorter and less healthy when that
Yes.
happened.
Also, Mound Guy, what's his actual name? But yeah, mutual of mine, friend
Because
of
we
mine.
didn't get the right amount of protein.
Yeah.
And our jaws like shrunk because people were eating gruel. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at part of the world where people are eating a lot of like porridge and shit, their jaws get really small.
Yeah, and the work that forensic archaeologists can do to recreate based on bone wear patterns or teeth wear patterns, many, like, they can learn a lot of things. They can learn about a person's diet, as well as bone wear patterns. This is how I throw myself off, because there's the other side of that. The, like, patterns of how bones develop, and, like, the muscles don't stay around. They don't preserve as well unless you're in like a bog, but the muscles will leave scarring on the bones that gives forensic anthropologists information about that person's life, what kind of actions they might have been doing. Like, certain bone wear patterns are associated with throwing an axolotl, or a great example is longbowmen, English longbowmen, having bone wear patterns and sizes of their bones, like in the chest, and how the muscles left scarring on their bones from pulling the bow back. So the muscles, and as a consequence, the bones in like the right shoulder region for a right-handed bowman, and as well as the fingers, are going to look different. Lots of great work from forensic archaeologists on that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
not
it's
good.
from.
Not good for us.
No, it's fucking terrible. We're devolving because of our diets, which is really strange. But if you think about this time, and especially that part of the world where there was so much abundant natural resources, that animal agriculture seems super simple. You
Wait,
just-
not an axolotl. That's an animal. What am I trying to say? Somebody correct me. The atlatl, an atlatl. I said axolotl. Holy crap.
corral a bunch of animals, you build a fence, and then you eat them.
Yeah.
And you don't really have to grow rice.
So many different ways that culture could have flourished.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're always looking for, and we just don't know where to look as well on the record. Like, one point people always make in like my comments and stuff to try and debunk me is like, oh, we would see pollution, we would see kind of lead signals in the atmosphere or whatever if there was like a big civilization 100,000 years ago. But that's only the case if it was someone on the scale of us now. Because
Or if they were doing it the way we're doing
yeah,
it.
that
That's
as
the
well,
thing.
yeah.
We're talking about a completely different pathway. Clearly, there's some technology that they had that we don't understand. When you talk about the drill holes that they find, or the way they had carved out these enormous, massive chunks of stone, and were apparently going to move them, we don't
like
understand.
the unfinished obelisk.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The unfinished obelisks, that's bananas. It's so many of these things that they cut out of the ground and absolutely moved are bananas.
Yeah.
So it's like, what kind of technology? Why are we assuming that it's going to be some internal combustion engine that sprays out terrible pollution? What if they had figured something out?
I would say it's entirely possible.
It's entirely possible because we're going to eventually. If you give us another 1,000 years, you will not be able to recognize any of this nonsense that we use for technology today, especially when AI gets involved. Like, did you see that thing where a quantum computer supposedly went 1 second back in time?
I did. I was reading that.
Is that
almost
bullshit?
No, they discovered it 6
Hydrate.
years ago, though. It's not new.
What?
6 years ago, still,
Yeah,
still
that story's from
2019,
2019. Yeah.
but still.
It went back in time.
Yeah, by 1 second in some way in quantum.
What does that even
fields.
mean?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't like that.
That's mad.
But that's us. Now imagine that technology that was science fiction 20 years ago, right? We'll go back to like the movie Alien and look at their stupid computers that they had. That's what they thought people were going to have when they were starfaring people.
Yeah.
Now, think of this quantum computer experiment where it goes back in time 1 second and then go forward 1,000 years, which is nothing.
Yeah.
When we're talking about 4,500 years ago, we might be off by 1,000.
This podcast is like such a circle jerk, but I'm 100% here for it.
So go to 5,500 years ago, 6,000. If you're listening to John Anthony West, he thinks it's 34,000 years.
Yeah.
That's what he thinks.
And that sounds so crazy, but then you look at the kind of length of time we've been around, and it's still quite recent.
It's gonna
Yeah,
change us.
it's still quite recent.
And that lines up with the Sphinx, doesn't it? With the kind of that's the processional cycle.
How much
Recession of the
evidence of a
equinox.
quantum computer from 34,000 years ago would be left? Right. So if we did get pelted by comets, which we know happened, that's a fact.
I saw an estimate, I think it was from NASA, but I'm not 100% sure, but it was from a kind of scientific journal that Earth is hit by what they define as a cataclysmic impact every 100,000 years. So that's an impact that's capable of wiping out a third of today's population every 100,000 years. And 100,000 years sounds like a long time, but again, we've been around for 300,000 years. So theoretically, we've been hit by a cataclysmic impact 3 times already during our story. And that both has the potential to completely wipe out anyone that was doing anything sophisticated, but also to wipe the record clean.
Yeah.
And that's not the only thing. You've got, super volcanoes, as we talked about. You've got pole shifts, you've got solar flares, you've got glaciers just scraping across the landscape and just completely erasing the record. You've got sea level rise. Sea level rise is a massive one because, where have we always lived? By the coasts. And if you look at the kind of fluctuation of sea level rise over the last 100,000 years, 200,000 years, 300,000 years, it's sea levels going in and out by hundreds of kilometers at a time, and nothing is going to be left.
Right. Wild stuff.
I know, it's crazy.
It is wild stuff. But again, if someone is a historian and they got into this, someone's an archaeologist and they got into this because they have this fascination for it, for them to become professors and then start teaching and writing books about this stuff and not still be fascinated by the new stuff is, to me, so weird. It's like you missed the whole reason why you got into this in the first place. You got into this in the first place is because you're trying to figure out
Seriously.
what happened.
It's like when doing a PhD, they lose their sense of wonder somewhere.
We get to this point. And if there's evidence
It's
that
sad.
shows that we don't have the full picture and you're ignoring that or dismissing that or
But the thing is,
Name
when you
drop
go
Flint
through
Dibble.
these kind of systems, and I've sort of got experience of this. Obviously, I was never a professional academic or anything like that. But I did history for 4 years. I was kind of inside, and I got to the point where it was almost, you was do this as a career, become a professional academic or not. It's very hard to kind of even think this way because everyone around you is thinking within these boxes that we've created for ourselves. And so it's very hard
That's
to
that
kind of open
social
your mind.
construct and the limits it
And you
has.
kind of have to do it in private as well because no one else is talking.
And absolutely within anthropology and within history fields, I was less susceptible to like peer pressure of these sorts of things. And I would say it's less severe in history, but I was less susceptible because I started college at 22 years old. So I didn't care about the social aspect. But like there is a peer pressure for you to go along with the prevailing opinions. And those are decided from a literal pedestal at the front of the room in a lecture hall or in a classroom where the professor is telling everybody a certain amount of information. Depending on the person, they'll talk about what is maybe not known, not decided, but a certain amount of it is agreed on, and it might not be the actual truth.
In those terms around you, and you're surrounded by people that think in quite limited terms. And I don't say that to kind of be offensive or, doubt anyone's
it's the
intelligence.
culture.
Exactly, it's the culture, and it means that no one is. It's very hard to think outside the box when you're kind of.
People have to have, when part of any social group, they have to have shared truths. They have to. It's like a definition of involving yourself in a group. And honestly, that is okay. It's okay that they do this because they have to put the standard somewhere. But at the same time, those answers that these people give should not be held as absolute truth because they aren't. Even though I think that the academic fields are useful, they're just not the monopoly. They should not have the monopoly.
In that culture, and yeah, I think that's kind of what creates these, rigid systems of thought.
It's also kind of fear-based because it's not just discouraged; they'll attack you.
No, I mean they attack each other
crazy.
even when they are.
They do.
Viciously.
They attack each
Just
other.
to
They
think
don't just
about
attack
the
Ram.
Clovis first issue.
Yeah, I mean that's the best example.
It's the
That's
best
crazy.
example because that guy was destroyed.
He's
His
talking to-
career
And they
was
try to deny that.
destroyed.
And Jack St.
It's
Mars
crazy.
and
And they
a few
were
others.
right.
Yep.
They were destroyed for theorizing that human beings had lived in North America and that had arrived in North America far before 13,000 years ago. And that was the established timeline of the Clovis people. And then when they found these footprints in New Mexico that are 22,000 years old.
Yeah, and they
that's-
hated that as well. They hated that.
I think the first
they-
one was more
But
Jack
they
St.
hated
Mars.
it just because
right?
they were wrong. It's all it is,
don't
man. It's
remember.
human ego is so gross. And this brings me back to psychedelics. Because what do psychedelics do that's most important? Well, the dissolving of the ego. It's one of the most important aspects of it. It makes you realize the folly of your ways. And all of these people that are supposed to be the academics, they're supposed to be the enlightened ones. They're not enlightened. They have information, and they hold that information like it's their identity. And they're
Yeah.
right about a lot of things.
And they
'cause
tie it to
haven't
their
studied
identity.
it, and they do deserve credit for that. What they've done is amazing. And the understanding that these academics, these archaeologists and historians can give us of our world and our history is really cool. It's really awesome. But there's a whole lot more out there. And for them to pretend and dismiss people they should embrace people like Graham Hancock. And then they should correct him when he's saying something that's wrong.
Yeah.
But instead of lying and then calling him a racist and saying all these terrible things about him, well, that just shows
Come
you
on,
that you
name
don't
drop
really have an
Dibble.
argument. And you're trying to protect your identity. Your identity is the gatekeeper of this information that is not yours to gatekeep. It's for the whole human race to understand what the hell happened.
Yeah. And I wish that, we've seen a surge in interest in ancient history and prehistory and, the story of our species through people like Graham Hancock, who have kind of.
Flint has never tripped balls at a Metallica concert, and it shows. Yes, I actually, in my interview with Graham Hancock, I discussed the role of psychedelics in our understanding of the human past and understanding the world in general. And in the context of that question of the understanding that to a lot of early animist cultures, changing your mind state through psychedelic drugs or there's many other ways to do this, chanting, ritualistic practices, and in studies, physiological effects have been demonstrated from just chanting, moving in unison as the Sufi Muslims would do, and many other groups as well. I should probably, maybe sometime we'll do some lives where we look at some of those traits if people would like that. Some of those religious practices. I lost my train of thought. I digressed too much. But yes, psychedelics. Changing your mind state is a huge part of these early cultures. And a lot of academics, I don't think, maybe there's no statistics on this, but I would assume that most archaeologists have not experienced psychedelics, whereas most alternative thinkers have. And that is a crucial part of the human experience and of opening your mind to different perspectives, because it is very, very much for those in the comments who have done psychedelics, you know, share your experiences. But it is the most literal changing perspective thing that you can have, because you're experiencing the world in a altered way, and through psychedelics or something else, or a combination of both.
It created a massive interest in this subject, but instead of embracing that, they see it as a threat, and I think that's really sad, to be honest. And yeah, I think it kind of hurts the discipline in general, because if you kind of like embrace that and like brought him into the table and spoke to him and kind of agreed to have
They're
the
just
discussion,
literally, they are literally talking about Flint Dibble right now, like so much.
it would create a much kind of more healthy debate around these things. And when you talk about the Clovis kind of narrative, it because we think that we know what happened and thus we know what didn't happen, it means that people aren't even looking for stuff that now we know was there. So like they didn't dig deeper than the Clovis layer,
Right.
until very recently, because
Right,
they
right.
knew
Targeted
that humans weren't
archaeology.
around
This is another thing that archaeologists, that they will pretend that this is not a thing, but it is very standard for archaeologists to not go down. I talked about this already earlier in the video. So if you just joined us, when we're done, I'm going to leave this up so you can go back, and that's somewhere in there.
Still Clovis, but obviously that was wrong. So they could have missed so much stuff, and they probably did. I mean, have you seen that? There's like to be fair, I think Graham mentioned it on the show, the Saruti Mastodon site, which is like
Saruti
130,000 years ago in America. I mean, if that's human, which it kind of looks like it is,
That's debatable, though, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
debatable? Because the way the bones are
I
broken,
gotta look into
it could have
specifics.
been from some sort of an accident or an.
They can tell really well bone wear patterns. The forensic archaeologist, or just any archaeologist who's working, because it's not just human bones, but it's also animal bones. The bones, it should be clear, maybe 130,000 years old. I'm not a real expert in this, so I don't know, but I believe that in most cases they can tell pretty easily whether a bone was broken while a human or animal was alive or after it was dead. So these differences of like whether it was broken by an excavator, it was broken modern, I'm pretty sure they can tell, but I'll have to look more into it.
Avalanche or something, right?
Yeah, it is debatable. But it's
Look, don't take me saying that as an endorsement of doing psychedelics. It is very individual to who the person is. I think you should seek professional guidance if you're going to do them, and be very smart about the dosage, and don't get dosed by something else. And I am definitely not 100% saying, if you're hearing this, that you should do psychedelics. And that's not just me saying that for the legal liability. I'm saying that very honestly, that is the truth. So make an informed decision, whatever that means to you.
also, it could be human. Like
Right.
it could easily be human, because it kind of looks like human markings on
Yes, Guilty Spark. I mean, Michael Button, I think he's extraordinarily well spoken in the stuff that he's talking about. I think he knows a lot of the basics. He doesn't have anything specific, but I think this is what a lot of people want. He has a traditional background in history, like I do, not in anthropology, which I do, but he talks about ancient history. He packages this stuff really well. It's really well researched. He's talking about current. I've spoken to this guy. There's an interview on my channel. If you go to my channel, if you want to subscribe, if you're not, it's not like he's who's the guy? Not Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson, who is like specifically into the geology stuff. He's very much a generalist. He's maybe not bringing up anything that anyone else is, but he's compiling this stuff and makes the arguments in a really, really great way. Like I appreciate how he conveys information. Okay, we're gonna keep going.
on bones. I mean, so
It looks like scrapings, like they're scraping
yeah.
the marrow out of the bones.
exactly.
Yeah. Or
And-
some kind of primitive.
But why couldn't it have been human? I mean, it
Right.
didn't necessarily have to be Homo sapien, but why couldn't another human species have got to the Americas?
Well, it seems like they certainly could have if they were here 22,000 years ago. Like what?
Exactly.
And this is a site where they think it's human because of the bone wear patterns on the bones. They don't actually have, I don't think, human bones directly.
was that timeline? Why'd they figure it out then?
Yeah.
And how'd they do it? Right? That's
Yeah.
the question. How'd they do it? And we know that people were seafaring from what was the earliest seafarers.
You could argue that Homo erectus.
Someone name dropped me.
Years ago, which is just mental.
Could
but-
you really?
Well, they reached places that were isolated, and some people say they kind of floated there accidentally, which is possible. But it seems a bit weird that you'd then like survive and colonize a place.
See, that's where it gets so squirrely. If Homo erectus made a boat, that's bananas.
I mean, Neanderthals were definitely making boats, and this points to how intelligent they were. They were making sophisticated boats and sailing across the Mediterranean and colonizing places like Crete well over 100,000 years ago.
well, we know that the North Sentinel people,
We talked about that. God damn it, Michael, name drop me.
they arrived by boat from Africa 60,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And
It's more than
so at least then people were seafaring.
Oh, definitely.
And probably way earlier than that. So why would we assume they wouldn't get to the Americas? That seems crazy.
I mean, bigger journey to be fair, but then I guess if you go across
Which
the top,
way you're
and-
doing it,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. If you go across the top and kind of hop down along the coast.
Oh, no, it is
then
60,000.
Yeah.
Not so hard.
Well, also there's the problem. It's like if you go back 12,000 years ago, Canada's covered in ice.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
God damn it, Michael, you're killing me, buddy. I just tried to merge the words buddy and brother.
There. It's literally all ice. So where are they coming from?
Well,
they have to be coming from the south.
I guess. I mean, there's the kind of theory regarding the Polynesian kind of island chain, hopping across to Easter Island and then making one last hop
He's talking about stuff we talked about like 2 months ago.
across to South America, or
That's a crazy hop, though.
going the other way. It is a crazy hop. It is
But
a
people
crazy
have
hop.
always done crazy. Just the fact that they did it in the 1400s is bananas.
That's pretty crazy. And they did that with tech that was, no tech. They just did it with the stars
Yeah.
and wood.
But then you get to how do you say that ancient Greek symbol, that ancient Greek mechanism that they found?
Oh, the Antikythera
That's
mechanism.
it. I never could say that. Antikythera. I'll try to remember.
You got it. You got it.
But I always forget it. But that thing is bananas. Like that, when they first found it, it just looked like a hunk of shit. Like, what is this? And then when they got a better understanding, I think it was like a long time after they discovered it, that they go, oh, wait a minute, these are gears. Like, what?
It's
The
like
hell
a
is this
computer, basically. isn't it?
2,000-year-old computer?
Yeah. At least, and also that's not the first one. Like, someone didn't just develop that and was like, here you go, I
Right.
just fucking made a computer. Like,
Right,
it's
there's-
clearly like a long.
That's what he's talking about. When you have an artifact that's clearly advanced, it's not like there were just some dudes who were living in mud huts and using like sticks and stones for tools, decided to make something extraordinarily complex that requires smelting and a culture over time of building, of creating things like that. Like not only the physical knowledge to physically create it, but the cultural, like straight up regular knowledge of thinking essentially to create something like that. And that takes, generations, depending on what it is, thousands of years to build up. So if you have that artifact, and that artifact is a few thousand years old, I think they're talking about the Antikythera right now, it implies that for thousands of years before that, or whatever, it's hard to put a number on it. It's not something that, it's not like a hard science thing, it's argument, but I think it's reasonable to say that it takes a long time to get to that knowledge level to create something that complex.
history of very, very technical stuff in
Right.
ancient Greece, and it could well have been the ancient Greeks, but also it could have been like, well, what's the history of this technology? And
Right. More technical than like this modern automatic watch.
yeah.
Modern automatic watch.
Agree, Bingo. I've done a lot.
If you look at the inside of them, it's crazy. There's springs and gears, and it's all within, like this Seiko is like within, I think it's a couple seconds a day.
Yeah.
Like that's
That's
crazy.
crazy, yeah.
And it's all these little, and it moves. It has no power source other than the movement of your hand.
And actually, Diego brings up a good point. Mud huts can be advanced and eco-friendly, actually. They can be. In a lot of ways, if you're talking about environmental sustainability, a mud hut with like the right airflow designs, because human architecture, I've talked about this on lives on the channel, like they used to build houses from materials like in specific areas and of the specific materials that were available to them, which are usually the ones in the immediate vicinity, and they were designed for the climate of that area. But now, you can find the same post and beam drywall houses from Alaska to Nova Scotia to Texas, because we just use artificial things like air conditioning that we've created, so they don't even have to build buildings anymore of local materials because they get them everywhere. We have these advances. Oh God, it's so complex. The modern world is homogenizing. It's awful. I rant about it all the time, so I won't do it right now, but God damn it. I just want to go someplace and have it look like that place. I don't want endless 4/1s or whatever they're called. Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's
And the
nuts. And it has a
Antikythera mechanism.
72-hour power reserve. So for 72 hours, you let it sit there, just from the power of your hand from wearing it for a
Really?
few. Yeah.
That's a cool watch.
Nuts. Isn't that nuts? But
That is
that's
crazy.
normal. That's a normal thing for a modern watch with these little tiny gears. This thing's way crazier than
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it's 2,000 years old.
At least.
What do they think it was for?
I think they thought it kind of like tracked the lunar cycles and the kind of elliptical movements.
The
of-
Antikythera that's
don't-
pictured.
Have you
Sure, but-
seen the 3D AI representation of what it looked like when it
Yeah.
was fully done? See if you can find that, because that's the most eye-opening of it. Because you're bringing this back to the time of Christ, and
Before,
someone made a
second-
computer during
Whoa.
the time of Christ. Like, oh,
That's what it's supposed to have looked like? What materials is it made of? Oh my gosh.
what are we missing? Like, Graham's quote is the best. I love this quote. We are a species with amnesia.
We are a species with amnesia, and I've seen some mainstream archaeologists deliberately misunderstand what Graham means there. We are a species with amnesia. I don't remember the specifics. Whatever, we won't talk about them.
100%.
100%. Yeah. And there's other quote that I really love. Things just keep getting older.
And things do keep getting older.
They keep getting older. Yeah. And this is something that people resist for some strange reason. And I don't understand it. I think it's just because it's attached to these folks like Graham.
Yeah, that's the one.
Look at it. That's nuts. That's what it used to look like.
This is a modern reproduction of it.
Oh, right. But that is what it used to
Yeah,
look
yeah.
like, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what he said, Jamie.
that,
Come on
that-
now.
these
yeah.
pieces.
Keep up.
So
Sorry, Jamie.
show me the modern reproduction of what it looked like. Just imagine.
That's what he's looking at. What do you mean?
2,000 fucking years ago figured that out, and they have these little representations of the stars and the planets.
Dude, if I ever get to go on Joe Rogan, inshallah, God willing, I hope I'll bring it up. I'll try to remember. Is Robert Seffer's book called Species with Amnesia? Robert Seffer blocked me. We were mutuals. He blocked me. I didn't even do shit, man. It's like that 50 Cent gif. Like, what'd he say fuck me for? Like, he just got pissed off at my friends, like Jimmy Corsetti and Dan Richards. And I was just there. I didn't involve myself in that one, but wait, did he block me? No, he just unfollowed me. He didn't block me. I got nothing against Rob. I'm not trying to talk shit about Robert. I'm not going to, I don't like to pick fights. But it's fine. It's fine. I understand. He doesn't have to follow me. I just
Of
think
the
it's funny.
sun and then all the planets surrounded. Like, first of all, how do they know all that? How are they seeing these planets? Like, do they have a telescope? Like, what are they? How do they know how many planets are in our solar system? What did you base this on?
And no equivalent technology ever re-emerged until the 16th
Right.
century with Swiss clockmakers or
Right.
something.
So it just makes you
Yeah.
wonder, like, how old is that, and what's that from, and what were was there other stuff like this that we never find?
When I googled first seafarers,
Yeah, I think that's
but there's I don't see the evidence that they have for 700,000 years ago.
I think that's the Homo erectus thing.
Bro, drop my name. Michael, god damn it.
They're I googled it, and crossing the Aegean Sea, it says they might have been doing, which there was some islands that were protecting it from crazy weather, potentially made it easier.
But that is
But I don't know what evidence.
that is a crazy thing to read. Some evidence suggests that man may have crossed the sea as early as 700,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Aren't you happy you were born today?
Yo, Rebirth, I will get back to you. I'm just getting back in. I got 10 people to DM, and I have to DM you about that author. His name looked Czech or whatever. I will get back to you. We can do a live stream. I need to get back into the flow of things. I haven't been doing content for a few months.
Yeah.
And the thing with Seffer, Dan went on Joe Rogan, said some stuff about Seffer, Sefer got upset. I'm not saying he wasn't justified. He got upset, and there was a big drama. They were fighting back and forth. Yeah. Graham Hancock did name me on Joe Rogan, which is great, and so did Dan Richards. But me and Michael just talked about this stuff. I don't remember if I was the one to introduce him to this information or not, though.
Yeah.
Imagine trying
Hell yeah, brother. I know.
to gut it out,
What, like
tough it out.
take the
living back
boys and
then.
go and cross some fucking
Yeah.
sea in a
Everybody check out Rebirth of the Word. I always think it's Rebirth of the World, but Rebirth of the Word on X.
wooden raft.
And I have one of the podcast episodes, if you haven't seen them, is down there. Like the video, please.
Yeah, when
Wouldn't
you
be
wind
too
up
far.
eating your friend because there's no food left. Yeah, it's kind of amazing that we got as far as we did, but it's really amazing when they find things like that. Is the Antikythera mechanism? I said it right.
You did.
Nailed it. I'll try to remember. But just the fact that we found one of those, and it makes you wonder, like, what they have in Egypt? You know, what did they have 2,000 years before that? What did we
I was
miss?
digging into the stone stuff where you're talking about frequencies. I saw a video recently that doesn't explain all the Egypt stuff, but there were frequencies coming out of these rocks that I don't think everybody is currently like studying. People have studied.
Oh, I gotta take this down. Is it kicking me off? No, I left that up for way longer than I intended, but it didn't kick me off. Maybe he has that setting turned off now. Should I risk it? Hey, I'm not saying I don't like Sefer. I'm just trying to be neutral. I really don't enjoy the drama, even with the mainstream archaeologists. I tried to stay away from it. I really tried to be nice. I will not talk shit. If someone's talking shit to me, I think that's justified. I'm perfectly willing to stop any of that drama, and I don't want to have more of it. I don't want to get in the whole YouTube drama thing, or any of it. It's not fun. It does not make me feel good. I just want to talk about the information. So I'm avoiding these arguments. I do feel a little bad because they're my friends, but then also I mean it's a whole thing. Let's do the information. I'm gonna leave the episode up on the screen, and we'll see if I get taken down, because in the past that's happened, but maybe it's changed.
It.
I completely lost
That's
my.
very basic, but like,
what are they
there's
showing?
The King's Chamber and the reverberations that happen. I was reading from Archimedes, I think, this quote here: when the priests sing the hymns of the gods, they sing the 7 vowels in due succession. The sound of these vowels has such euphony. I think that's that word.
Euphony?
That men listen to it instead of the flute
Like
and the
euphemism?
lyre. The lyre.
Sounds good.
It's from 2000 or 200 BC.
There's like so many ancient sites that are all built with kind of acoustic,
Yeah.
like resonance
Thank you,
in
Dr.
mind.
Strange.
Yeah, so that's what I was getting into this. I was trying to find the proof of it. Someone made a video I saw recently where the somatic stuff shows up all over the place in some ancient sites, definitely obviously in churches and cathedrals.
Ooh.
But this is what happens when you like
Yeah.
put sand on a plate and hum on it, or put a certain frequency.
Vibrations. Yeah.
And how you stumble across this, and it just
It is
so
sound art.
happens to be the same thing we're discovering now.
Right. So this is probably pretty small on your screens, but they're showing like architecture that matches how sand on like a disc of some kind that contains the reverberations of music. Think like, a cymbal in modern drums, like that type of thing, but it like can hold sand on it. And then you hit it at a certain vibration, or you make a sound that makes it vibrate. And how that looks, which is obviously takes some advanced knowledge and some advanced like physical ability, knowledge, like the brain knowledge and the physical creation knowledge to make something that will reverberate in that way. But the way that sand falls matches the architecture. Oh my God. I'm trying so hard to be concise. I'm working on my ability to talk better, but thank you guys for bearing with me.
Crazy.
What is that image of? What is that golden?
This?
Yeah. What's that?
It's a cathedral. I looked at it a second ago.
Is that in Canada?
No,
And it's on a lot of religious
Oh.
buildings.
Spain.
It's in Spain. Whoa. That is wild.
Okay. I was looking into the oldest doors people found. The oldest door is only like 5,000 BC, and it was found in Switzerland somewhere.
They had doors before that, guaranteed.
Huh.
There's the oldest active doors in the UK. It's from 900 AD, I think.
The oldest
Where
active
did those
door.
images of sacred geometry from? And that right there,
This.
Leonardo da Vinci's original drawing of the flower of life. What Da Vinci? What drugs are you taking, son?
That is, yeah,
How
that
is he
does.
seeing that?
I've seen stuff on drugs like that.
Yeah, well, that's ancient imagery, right? That's sacred geometry. Those depictions have been around forever.
He was a crazy dude, Da Vinci, well, in a good way.
Yeah,
Smart guy.
bizarrely smart. It's
Very
just-
smart.
It's weird when you
Seriously.
have these outliers. These
Didn't he
outliers
invent,
that
like,
come out of
basically a
nowhere and,
helicopter?
Like he had like a working model of a flying machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he had like 3 jobs.
yeah.
We're live. I'm back. I used to do these more often. I will hopefully. And I'm saying I'll do them again. I don't want to disappoint, but I think I can now.
Crazy guy.
And he's an amazing artist.
Yeah.
It's kind of these outliers that just how many of them we never heard of. How many of them were from 30,000 years ago? How many? Just we have such a limited understanding of our history, and I always think like if something happened to us right now, what would really be left? The real problem is everything is either on paper, and there's not a lot of it on paper anymore. It's on hard drives, and those things would get cooked. If there was just a massive solar flare, something huge that took out our power grid and
No.
destroyed all of our cell phone towers and all our satellites, no more electricity.
And even if it didn't get cooked,
Yeah.
what would you do with it in 100 or in 10,000 years? If
Exactly.
you found that, you wouldn't know what that was.
You wouldn't know what that was. You would have to devise a new version of Windows to read it. You know, it would take so long, and it would probably have been corroded and wasted away
It wouldn't be
long
recognizable.
before that. Especially if something happened, it was underwater. Especially if the entire world is on fire because we got hit with a comet.
Yeah.
Like there wouldn't be much left. And this is like a really shitty way to store information.
It's a bit. It does feel like a bit of a risk, doesn't it?
It's
Like
a giant
The
risk.
digital
everything
stuff
we've ever
is
Yeah.
going to be gone.
learned and discovered and thought.
Well, actually, I guess crypto, like blockchain, unless all the computers in the world go out, probably preserves things better than traditional electronics.
about is
Well,
all
you know
just-
what happens when your phone dies
Have a good night, Vingle.
and you don't have a backup phone? You're like, oh no, I don't know anyone's number.
And we do that with our entire civilization's knowledge.
Right. And so then you would have just stories and myths of what things used to be like. There was an all-female flight crew at Delta. You're like, what? What are you talking about? What does that even mean?
Who gives a
oh,
shit?
they had satellites. What are you talking about? Like, what is the thing? Is like, I wonder how many of the satellites would still be in orbit, or whether their orbit would deteriorate and they'd come crashing down to Earth.
I think they would decay like relatively
Right.
quickly. I think. I mean, I'm not sure, but lots of them.
Wait,
would,
Starlink has an off-planet backup of a lot of that is wild. Yeah, we're going interplanetary,
I think. And when we're
like the Beastie Boys.
talking big time scales,
Yeah, let's think. Let's Google that. How many satellites that are in orbit today? See if put this into AI. How many satellites that are in orbit around the Earth today will be there in 100,000 years? Does Perplexity have an answer for that?
to be
Is
fair, I think it's unlikely that anyone else was doing like space travel and stuff.
Unlikely.
Yeah,
Certainly
maybe not
unlikely.
impossible, but I don't think there's anything on the moon, for example. I think we'd probably see that, but
Yeah, that's the weird one, right? There's bases on the dark side of the moon,
Yeah.
and they're watching us. Are you sure?
yeah, I don't think so.
Well, then there's the weirdness of the moon itself, that it's the absolute perfect size and the perfect distance to completely block out the sun.
That is weird, isn't it?
Real
is super
weird.
weird.
It's real weird because it's not
Wait,
kind
what's
of
he?
perfect size. Well, then there's the weirdest chases on the dark side of the moon,
Yeah.
and they're watching us. Are you sure?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, then there's the weirdness of the moon itself, that it's the absolute perfect size and the perfect distance to completely block out the sun.
That is weird.
Is there another explanation for that, or is that actually weird? like, when the moon is directly between the sun and the earth, is the shadow that it casts like pretty much exactly correct? Does anyone know that? I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if Joe knows either.
It isn't it?
Real,
That is
real
super
weird.
weird.
It's real weird because it's not kind of right. It's perfect.
Precise, yeah.
It's very precise.
Maybe he doesn't.
So you would need the precise size and the precise distance.
That's weird.
And there's also the fact that it stabilizes our atmosphere. It stabilizes our environment.
Yeah, I guess
The
the argument for
tides.
that is we wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
Right.
If it wasn't the exact right.
This is the best
Yeah.
answer. I
Good
can say. I don't
point.
have to read the whole thing, but
Good
there's
point in this
thousands of
comment here.
satellites burning up each year in the atmosphere.
Oh, shit.
Is what I got to the end of.
Oh, so thousands of them crashed down?
For sure. I mean, they.
So how
that's
long do they last?
That's the first. That's why I was trying to track that down. The first one only lasted 3 months.
So Sputnik 1, the Soviet Union, in 1957, 3 months later, it fell out of orbit.
So it seems like they worked up to about a 25-year rule where they don't expect it to last that long. And it's gonna crash down.
So in 25 years, there's nothing left.
But I was trying to Google
Right.
how long
Well, not
until
all
the
of
last
them,
one. If they stop putting them up, how long until the last one crashes down?
It seems like 25 years.
That's why I couldn't get a good answer that way.
Did you put it into AI?
I did
Rebirth of the word. I literally said it right, but I felt like I didn't. Women in the moon have a relationship. Many early cultures in many different geographical areas like Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas, which are like separate from each other. And I think even Aboriginal Australians, they have many cultures have relationships between women and the moon. It's interesting how a lot of these cultures, and a lot of it is explained through diffusion from a common source in particular areas. But for people that are so separated for such long periods of time and interaction between groups of people is limited, like there might be 10, 15, 20 different groups across an area when humans are more primitive. The definition I talked about earlier in the video about like the amount of people in any specific group. Across vast distances, there are a lot of common themes, and across different like environments and methods of subsistence. Like, for example, there are similar cultural traits and even religious beliefs between the Eurasian steppe and the American, like North American steppe, the Great Plains. You find a lot of similar cultural practices and beliefs that come out of that. And like pastoralists, like transhumanist pastoralists across different areas from like the Kalahari into the like Mongolian mountains, there are similarities that you can find. It's very interesting. I should do more of it later. Mound Lore, what's up, brother? We were talking about you earlier in the video, actually. I don't remember why, but we were. I got all my friends coming. This is awesome. Thanks. Mesoamerican had a relationship between the moon and the rabbit as a fertility thing. This is when I wish I had my backdrop. Like I have some of my Mayan stuff back there. Yeah, I don't remember right now.
I don't want to. I don't like
Good to
asking
know,
questions
Diego.
You don't know the answer to AI. I
That's
like asking questions I know the answer to.
well, I just like to see how it thinks. I like to see if it's gonna just bullshit you and lie to you, or if it's gonna.
That's why I want to know when it's bullshitting me.
Yeah.
I don't like knowing when it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because you just have to trust it. Doesn't feel
Well,
good.
it's also basing all its information on websites.
Yeah, and I don't know what year it was trained on. I was watching people talk about sports cards. They're like, it's not updated in the last 3 years, so you can't use this data. It's not good data.
Oh, really? Which
But
one was that?
I don't know which one they were talking about. There's so many AI opportunities out there.
It's funny watching people on Twitter use Grok and try to get Grok to say things it doesn't want to say.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh, there's an information blockade of what Grok is allowed to talk about.
The thing is, you can kind of trick AI to say,
Which one was that, Squid? Because East Coast, it contains a lot of different cultural groups, like Eastern Algonquins, Iroquoian, the not Athabascan, that's West Coast, but way more, even more into Florida. There's a lot of different, very different, diverse cultures on the East Coast.
whatever you want it to say.
Yeah,
and
I've
that's-
seen people do that, like trick it into saying like, "How would you make a bomb?"
Yeah, and that's almost the
you can
bad
do
thing
it.
about it is it kind of becomes your own little echo chamber after a while if you want it to, if you can kind
Yeah,
of.
well, the Wampanoag are a type of Eastern Algonquin, but yeah, because there are different ways that you can break down groups of people. Even there's so much I could talk about it for hours.
Convince it to.
Well, we've done a really terrible job of taking care of most people, and when then you give these people access to the kind of power that AI provides them, they're going to ask naughty questions
Yeah,
because
it's great fun though.
they're not living in harmony.
Yeah.
Because we're a selfish being, we're a selfish creature.
It's a crazy thing though, the kind of advent of large language models and
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, and it's mad.
Well, it's also we're in the middle of it. It's happening right now, which is real weird. So like in our lifetimes, we're potentially witnessing the biggest change to civilization since the pyramids.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, even in my lifetime, like I was born in '97, didn't really have. I had to dial up the internet. I remember when I was a kid, and then smartphones came along, and then obviously things like AI, and it is pretty ridiculous.
So sorry, just a comment. It's not really what they're talking about, but Algonquin is a very broad language group. Algonquin is huge, and it's across the whole U.S. And within Algonquin is very diverse. U.S. and Canada, modern U.S. and Canada. I don't think there's any in Mexico, but Eastern Algonquin specifically is like they cover roughly what is today the 6 states that make up New England: Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine. I didn't have to list them, but those are the states. Besides a little bit of Iroquoian, the Mohawk that sneak into the western side of northern New England, and then I think their traditional land of not Athabascan. There's another name that are up in like northern Maine.
I was 27 years old before I ever got online.
Yeah.
That was when I first got a computer and I got on AOL. You've got mail. It's like, I've gotten mail? This is crazy.
Yeah.
And, and you could go to chat rooms and read about stuff, and you could download information. So I'd print stuff about UFOs, and like, this is the future. I'm living in the future.
Right.
And we're very fortunate, I think, that we got to see what life was like with a primitive use of the internet to what it's become now, to a quantum computer can go back a second in time.
There's some sparse evidence that Algonquins would have encountered Vikings. It's really possible because it's very possible that it happened because the Algonquins, Eastern Algonquins even, they were in like the maritime provinces, which are like southeastern Canada. They're right north of New England in the US, which is the part of the US that sticks out to the northeast, where I'm from. It's very possible. I'm not sure exactly. It might be pretty clear, but from what I remember of the evidence, it's very possible, but not guaranteed that they met Vikings. It would have been Vikings that were in Greenland and then going west a little bit, or the Algonquins going a little bit east. It's totally plausible.
To, what is coming next? We don't know. What's really weird is, imagine if this has been done before. We're assuming
Yes.
that it hasn't, but imagine if the Egyptians had figured out something similar. It kind of makes sense. I mean, it sounds preposterous that they did, but why? Why, if we can do it? Why, if we can do it? If maybe it's just a thing, if you leave humans undisturbed for a long enough amount of time with food, they start figuring stuff out. If you can keep
He's got
them
extra
from killing
food,
each
food
other,
surplus, right?
and maybe that's the beautiful thing about the way Egyptian technology had advanced. They didn't split the atom. Maybe they figured out something else that they couldn't
Right.
turn into a weapon.
And this is like the human civilization is not in a linear pattern. It doesn't progress in one way. It's not like it's usually I describe this as if you played a game of civilization. We don't evolve like that. Our cultures, not like genetically evolved, but our cultures do not evolve like that. There are different trajectories and choices that human cultures can make and different paths that they can take. You don't go animal husbandry and then you get the wheel, and you got to get the wheel, and then you get math. Like, that's just how we did it. That's how our like Middle Eastern based civilization of today, broadly based civilization of today, developed. But it doesn't have to be that way. It could be any sort of other way.
Ben.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely doing some pretty mad stuff. And then if you look,
I think I'm gonna cut it off here, and I'll do the other half of this another day. We've been going almost 3 hours, but when we get to a natural stopping point of them talking, I'm getting a little, out of it.
at those kind of granite boxes they made, that completely smooth surface. I mean, they clearly had some form of technology that we don't attribute to them. I think that's undisputed. I mean, it is disputed, but I don't see how you can logically kind of look at what they were doing and not think they had some kind of technology that we don't traditionally attribute them to. But whether that means they were like some crazy advanced civilization or it was built by some other advanced civilization, that's a bit more hypothetical. But they were clearly doing stuff that we can't appreciate today. So that logically suggests they had something that we don't understand, right?
Right. And when you find
Antikythera,
from 2,000 years ago, it makes you just really think, like, okay, what did they have?
Well, ancient Greece was very inspired by ancient Egypt, so I mean, it could have well come from there.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're just guessing. We're just lost in guessing.
That's the thing. It's all about interpretation, isn't it? All of history is about interpretation. It's not a hard science.
Yes, it's interpretation.
Physics. I mean, physics is kind of crazy too. Although it hurts my head, man. That's too much for me. All that quantum physics stuff. But have you ever heard of the Silurian hypothesis?
No.
That's
maybe I have. What is it?
Okay, that's the new topic. Any last questions before I sign off here? I'm gonna go to bed, actually. Thanks for coming, everybody. I appreciate so many people popping in. I haven't been here for a while, and I apologize, and I will try to come back. Thank you for those donations from Rubate for the dollary dues and the squid. I appreciate that, brother. It's not necessary to donate, and I really appreciate you guys just being here, but I really, really also appreciate you guys giving me money, which, again, I'm not going to be upset if you don't do or can't. Yeah. Oh, Sakone, you're still here. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see so many regulars back. Diego, Dr. Strange Doom, JC, I think probably signed out. Rex probably went to bed. Rex is in my time zone, man. Buenos noches, Diego. I only speak English and Spanish, so that's it. Good night, and well, actually, good morning, and have a good rest of your day to our Australian friends in the comments, and a good night to my Mexican and American friends in the comments. Those are the only countries I know represented right now. Maybe there's Canadians somewhere. I'm stalling in case someone has a question. Thanks for dropping in. I remember you sharing something earlier, Science Everything Fringe, that I really liked. Thank you for that. Have a great rest of your... Wait a minute. 6 hours forward. Yeah, so it's like 7 a.m. in Scotland. 6 a.m. in Scotland. Damn. Did you just stay up all night? You were here like 3 hours ago when we started. That would have been like 3 a.m. for you, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, let's do that again. Where is everyone tonight? We can do that if you want to share, as specific as you want to get. 5:55. Have you been awake all night, dude? Holy shit. Not that I don't do that sometimes. I don't like it, but it happens. But yeah, I'm in New England, Connecticut, USA, Idaho. That's a rare state to hear. A very nice state. Love Idaho. Also a diverse state. Potatoes, known for the potatoes. It's the Ireland of America, without many Irish people. Yeah, I'm with you on that, brother. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming again. And I will hopefully see you soon. Lands of the Illinois. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know what that is. Arizona/Mississippi. Those states are thousands of miles away from each other. The pan nanowire. The pan nanowire? Is that English? The pan nanowire. The Panhandle. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, the Panhandle of Idaho, the little part of Idaho that sticks in and is like in Missouri's face, and I'm sorry, not Missouri, Montana's face. Montana, the shape of the state looks like a face, and Idaho's Panhandle is up there. Right, Illinois, and I remember you saying you were from Illinois now. 1,600 miles. All right, good night, everybody.